Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia.
Oh, hello there. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. I hope everybody is doing all right out there. Thanks for joining us today. I'll be your host, MC Dagster, and just look at the crew we have gathered around the mics today, two of which I haven't seen in quite some time, actually, and one I haven't seen in about a week. Now, you guys may know going in here, you may have noticed something conspicuously or somebody conspicuously missing again today. He wanted you to know he's got more important things to do. That's all he asked me to tell you. His words, not mine. All right, enough about that, sons of bitch. Let me hand the mic over to my faithful podcasting co-conspirators, starting with maybe the coolest cat that side of Harrisburg in the state of Pennsylvania. My pal, Ben Smith, everybody.
What's up?
Yo.
Thinking there were a lot of modifiers on that. Like you had to put in like on that side of Harrisburg.
That
you had
side.
to mention specifically that it was only Pennsylvania, even though the rest of these folks on here are the other side of Harrisburg. I'm feeling a little shafted, but it's okay because your beard's looking nice and I love you anyway.
I mean, Ben, we love you guys. We love Dustin as well. There's clearly a superior side to the state.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fair. It's wrong, but it's fair to think it.
I didn't say which side.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's any superior side. I think Pennsylvania is a garbage state.
You and I have had this talk before.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part. You're
I
too
just love when
critical.
people are
of
like,
our
"Oh,
state."
you." Yeah, people are like, do you and Dagan get together and hang out very often?" And I'm like, we live 6 hours away from each other. We don't. No, we don't.
Literally once. But we'll be doing it again soon, though.
That's
right?
true.
We'll be doing it out in my neck of the woods for Too Many Games.
About a month from now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, about a month.
Nice.
Good to see you. It's good to
Looking
have you
forward
on, my friend. I haven't seen you in a
Good
while.
to be here. Mm-hmm.
I don't think
There you
I've
go.
actually seen your face since New York, since the live show.
That's probably
I think
true.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you on today, my friend. Next, if she's not burning on the mic, on the podcasting mic, she's burning a fresh batch of scrambled eggs. Micah Moriarty, boys and girls. What's up, Micah?
Thank you, Dagan. The scrambled eggs never burned, but a nice golden brown, crispy edges. That's what you're looking
That is
for.
burned.
No, they're not burned. They're not burned. They're perfect. I got to tell you my newest way that I'm messing with your brother. So I needed some new pillows. Okay, I like pillows that are like nice and flat. All right, preferably somebody else has slept on it first, kind of broken it in. But like my current pillows were like losing their form altogether, right? I was like, these are too old, they gotta go. I get some new pillows, and what I did was I put the old ones, in the corner of the room, just in case I hated the new ones. And I was like, okay, I need something in the interim still. But what I've been doing to mess with Colin is that I had said to him, you didn't even notice that I had new pillows. And of course, he's like, how could I have known something like that? What are you talking about? I said, first of all, my old pillows are right over there. And I point to him. He's like, oh, my God. And then I'm like, you don't even know what your wife is sleeping on at night. I said, it could have been another man, And so we've been having this joke of you don't know what your wife sleeps on at night. And so ladies, the 5 ladies that are out in our audience, use this one. All right. Get a new pillow. See if your husband notices. And then be like, you didn't even notice I had a new pillow, and just take that wherever it goes. It's very funny. This has been a good one. This has been a good bit.
Wow. You know what's funny? I sympathize with Colin on this one. Unfortunately, I don't think I would know. I would know if Helene had a new pillow for years. You know what I mean? Like, why would I know? How would I know?
And you wouldn't. This is 100%. For the people who are going to think I'm actually crazy, this is 100% a joke. But it is just one of those classic sitcom wife things. Like, you didn't even notice I had a new pillow. Like, and how would you? But yeah, that's what I've been bothering him with lately. That's the thing. That's the thing of the week.
Well, it's funny you say that because Laylee got a new pillow because her old one was giving her neck issues, and that one was easy to notice because it's an ergonomic pillow, so it's got like this funky ass shape to it. So I would be a good fiance. I would catch that one.
Matty,
I would know what my wife
showing
is sleeping on.
Well, so let's stay with it. A man who needs no introduction. Exactly one half of the Defining Dude podcast. Young Connecticut yuppie and all around hell of a fella, Mr. Matty Plays, ladies and gents. What's up, Matty?
Hello, Dagan. Did you get new glasses? You get new specs?
No, these are old. I just don't wear them a lot. But I'm finding
Yeah.
I need them more now in my old age. So, sometimes I wear them. I usually don't wear them on the podcast. I don't know why. They're comfortable. They're a very light prescription. And they were just here, like on my little computer shelf, like a few weeks ago, and so I just wear them for the podcast now. I don't know. The only thing is, I get a little distracted by the reflection because they're such a light prescription that they have they're very glassy. I don't know if that's off-putting for people watching, but honestly, who watches a podcast? You're listening, right? I mean, do you sit here and watch these 4 panels?
Some people do.
15,000 or so people do, I think.
That's insane to me.
I used to. I liked to watch Sacred because I wanted to see like Chris's reaction to things. Like, that was half of it was just seeing like their actual like faces react to things.
I get too many memes in Defining Duke, so I know people watch the video version of that.
Yeah, and like with my other podcast though, I don't, right? Like the barbecue podcast, I listen to that in my car. That guy and his wife, they do that podcast on video as well, and it's on YouTube. But I listen to that when I'm running errands in my car, so I'm not watching the video for safety, of course. But otherwise, if I'm at home, I'll probably put on a video. See. I don't know. There's something about watching them talk and actually seeing their face reactions and things like that. It does add another layer to it.
Yeah, the barbecue podcast, Michael, let me ask you this. Is that like an ASMR thing where they're actually grilling and you hear the sizzling and the cooking of the meat and stuff, or are they just straight up having a conversation about cooking and grilling?
Right. There's no cooking during the podcast. Generally, they did one time test this indoor smoker, and that was pretty cool. But so he has his YouTube channel where he does all his recipes, and you watch him cook those, and then the podcast is talking more in depth about the recipes he makes each week, or just what they made. Like they do holiday episodes, things like that, planning your Easter spread, planning your, Super Bowl party.
That's awesome.
They do episodes like that, and it comes out once a week.
Weekly. Okay.
How to Barbecue Right by Malcolm Reed.
Oh, interesting. And they do a weekly you could do a weekly podcast about anything, right? Any topic.
Oh, yeah. Like Matty, I don't know if you do this. When I need to do like sound check, for example, I will do a fake podcast and it's called Plant Stand, the plant podcast. And I just start talking about my house plants. And this has never actually been released. It's just what I would do when I needed to do like mic checks and things like that, or like when I was like troubleshooting sound issues. And I would just always do my fake podcast, which was Plant Stand, because part of it was that I didn't want to rehearse my actual script for a video because I didn't want to do it too many times. I like to come in kind of fresh when I was doing videos like that. So this was just like, all right, this week we're talking about my cactuses. And like, I'd always do that and just have my little fake show.
Micah, did you save these? You could have a whole Plant Stand collection.
That's a new Patreon tier right there.
Holy
I'm telling you.
It could be. I don't know if they still exist. They're probably on one of my hard drives. And I'm sure everything I've ever done exists somewhere, but I probably didn't specifically keep them. No,
God. You got you're sitting on a potential treasure here. That would be amazing to have those and listen to those. And the fact that you recorded them and they're somewhere, there's people listening right now that are like, I need to hear the Plant Stand podcast.
Yeah.
I thought about it like last week because I was like, oh, that'd be funny to do for April Fools. And then I was like, fuck, I missed it. Like April Fools was, because it would have been funny for Punching Up if like Dustin let me do the intro and I was like, it's Plant Stand, the plant podcast. But then I realized like it's May, we missed it. Maybe if you had that idea a little bit sooner, but maybe people will forget and I'll do it next year. I'll also forget. It's a never ending cycle.
I feel like April Fools would be a lot worse or better because my best April Fool's ideas do always come in May. And then you have to wait that 11 months. You forget, it gets diluted, it gets watered down, you lose enthusiasm, right? That's
Convince yourself out of it.
It's always the way. It's always we should do another one in May, like a follow-up to the people that just kind of don't get the idea in time. You know, I think. I'm pitching that.
I refuse to participate in April Fools because I'm like, I'm funny every fucking day. So like, I don't need to make a day to be funny. It's like I'll have my jokes on April 2nd as well. Don't worry.
Jesus, Matty, I like your style. We got a little Colin energy going. Who needs them? We got a lot of Colin energy.
Well, I'm not like I feel like Colin's just generally anti-holiday. Like he seems like too fatigued to celebrate anything at times. So it's like I love holidays. Just April Fool's Day. You know what it is? I think it's because like I'm a gaming news YouTuber for the most part. So like I'll sign on, my sub box will be full of like fake news of people like trying to farm views as a April Fool's joke, and I'm just like, it bugs the hell out of me, man. I was like, stop. It's not funny. No one laughs.
I don't think there's
good. April Fools was back in the day when like, you know, you'd replace your significant other's the shower head with like Kool-Aid packets and stuff like that.
Yeah,
not straight up lies. I feel like
exactly.
The internet has changed all of that now.
Yeah,
yes.
It is the advent of the internet, social media, all that kind of stuff. I had an idea. I'm just going to say, because I'm never going to do it. I had an idea, a really complex idea where I was going to pitch. I think I was just going to put it on Instagram and say I was kind of show running or creative directing the new Rick and Morty kids show for Adult Swim's preschool block. And that's all I was going to say. And I was just going to see if people understood how ridiculous that was. But I bet in there, I would have had some people being like, wow, Cartoon Network's doing an Adult Swim preschool lineup, like with a Rick and Morty kids show or whatever. I'm never going to do it. And I was really doing it to court Dan Harmon and see if I could get his attention because I know he's so, you know, into social media. But, you know, it came and went. It was one of those, I never got past the concept stage and I never will. So Dan, if you're listening, I don't know. Notice me, senpai. All right, you guys, with that. Now, you know what the other thing is? There's like 2 or 3 people. Now, I'm not on the Reddit, so I don't know what goes on there. So there's probably a lot more. But there's like 2 or 3 people that have been critical of the long Constellation intros. And we were just talking about this before we rolled the webcams today, right? That people are like, timestamps, clamoring for what's going where, what topic is when, who's saying the which thing. And I'm wondering specifically now, because Constellation's really the only show I do besides Knockback that's, you know, a regular podcast. What are people clamoring to get to? You know what I mean? We're doing 4 random, we're having a conversation. It's like we're sitting around the campfire type thing. You know what I mean? So I get a little, people have been polite about it. People haven't been like nasty, like Dagan, like cut to the chase, like, you know, you're too long-winded. Let's get to brass tacks. But what's brass tacks in the show? The whole point is to have a conversation. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Again, this is one of my. So I'm anti-timestamp in general. Yeah. Although I can understand them more when the shows, you know, get a little longer or whatever. But with a show like this, you either want to hear a conversation or you don't. But here's my big thing about this show and the comments specifically. Occasionally, because I have the YouTube Manager app and access to the comments, I'll see somebody comment on an episode of Constellation and be like, can we get timestamps? And then I'll look at the description and there's timestamps. And like, I went back and looked at all of the Constellations and probably in the last, 6 months, 70% of them have timestamps. There's sometimes when the topics blend together and it's just really hard to, separate them out. But people are commenting, asking for timestamps when there are already timestamps. That's what gets me. I don't get that one.
It's so strange. Like, how molecular do they want it broken down?
Right.
Like, Cog says this sentence that on this, you know what I mean? Like on this minute, second, times. Like, it's so strange to me. Yeah, but I don't know. It's funny. We were just talking about this, but the podcasts I listen to regularly, like Tim Dillon, I've been talking about him a lot. I've been like really binging his stuff. And I think the nature of what I do for a living, like I could sit there and animate for 8 hours and I'm just a 4 or 5 hour rant is fine with me because it's in the background. It's just going. I'm not watching, I'm listening. Right. And so for timestamps, they don't really apply to me because I'm not a watcher anyway, So maybe I'm just not on that wavelength. So maybe I'm being overly critical. But I hear you. Like for me, it's like this type of podcast, which is just a bunch of friends, right, sitting around talking about whatever the topic du jour is. It's like we're not talking like like you guys do sometimes. We're not talking PlayStation. We're not talking Xbox like Matty does regularly. It's not there's no specific nucleus. It's just everything, So what I'm saying to you guys out there and girls and people, let's just say people, right? Just enjoy it or don't, but do, because I get very offended if you don't. I'm too sensitive if you don't enjoy it. Now listen. Matt, this is a thing, Matty, you accidentally apparently hit reply with your topic to just Micah. So me and Ben didn't get it right away. But I've been guilty of this so many times. So absolutely don't feel bad.
I'm closing in on 30, man. It's starting to happen.
I do it constantly.
I'm just missing these little things. Yeah, I was talking on Defining Duke, my lack of sleep, how I just go to bed late. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to sleep in. Nope, it's 9 a.m. Get up. Just these little things are happening. See, it's starting to creep in. Sorry,
I remember that age, and that's when it started happening to me too. Like that.
Good, I'm not alone.
No,
all right, cool.
100% not. I remember like it was yesterday, even though it's been 20 years for me.
I'm still 20 in my head.
Oh, dude,
that's how I am. Age is a mindset.
That's the sad part. And I got 20, the better part of 20 years on you, Matty. But the whole thing worked out fortunately because it gave me a good idea. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna workshop this, but I'm gonna do this with every show. I'm gonna leave one topic that I'm not gonna look at. So I'm just fresh, off the top of the dome, off the cuff, and unplanned, right? And just kind of unplugged. So, Matty, I didn't look at your topic, so I'm extra excited to get to it because I don't know what it's going to be. Micah, I think I'm going to go ladies first today. I'm going to start with you. You have a fun one. Made me personally think of a couple of things. So you kick off the proceedings today, Micah, with your topic.
All right. Yeah. I was hoping that this wouldn't be taken as weird because I thought of this topic a while ago and then was like, I need a group that I'm very familiar with so that you guys won't take this as being odd. And the topic is family features or family resemblances, because what I had been thinking of recently was when you're a kid, people constantly point out you look just like your dad, you look just like Aunt Joe, like things like that. Like people are constantly pointing these things out. As you get older and your facial features become static, people point it out far less. And I realized in my head, like, how long has it been since anyone pointed out, like, oh, you look just like cousin Francine, you look just like, your dad. And then I was thinking more so on when I was a kid and some of the family features that you would be either disappointed that you didn't get or the features that you were like happy to have. So I kind of wanted to just throw this out there. Like your own family, do you have a strong family resemblance? Like both sides of my family, my dad's side, they look very much alike. You could look at a group of us and say like these people are related. And my mom's family, the same. Me being biracial is a little different because if you put me with either group, I kind of look like I belong. But like even my sister and I don't look very much alike. I think you can tell we're related, but we're not carbon copies of each other, right? So even within our own family, there are times that we sort of look like the odd man out. But then it's what made me think of which features do I have? Like I have the birthmark on my face that runs on my mom's side of the family. And I have an older cousin who has the same birthmark on his cheek. And he's older than me. He's like Colin's age. And he would always point it out as like a, hey, cousin, like we share the same birthmark. It made me feel better about it. It made me feel like we had this special connection, he and I. So that was a feature I was like happy to get. Another one being my nose. Everyone always said I had my dad's nose. My dad is like, he looks a lot like his mom, my Grammy. So it's like same nose as Grammy. And then I'm looking through family photos and it's like, it's the same nose like we all have. Basically like his sisters, a lot of their kids. Like that was something else that people would really dote on when I was a kid. I was like, oh, you have Grammy's nose type deal. The features I wish that I had gotten when I was a kid, I was always jealous that my dad had green eyes and his mom, my Grammy, had blue eyes. I got brown. Genetics, brown eyes always win out. So, the Punnett squares and all that. So I was very disappointed. I did not get a cool eye color. Another one, my dad has like a widow's peak hairline that also runs on his side of the family. Like a lot of his nephews have it too. That was another one I was jealous I didn't get. I don't know if it matters as much as when I'm an adult now, but as a kid, I was very disappointed that I did not have the cool hairline. The last one is the extra fingers, which run on my mom's side of the family. I'm gonna hide names just to protect the innocent in case they don't want this information out there. But okay, my mom's dad, who I never actually met, he died before I was born. So grandpa on that side, he was born with 11 fingers. One of his kids had 12 fingers. The 12-fingered person had a kid with 11 fingers. That person, by chance, was also the 11th grandchild in the family, and their birthday is on the 11th of an unsaid month. So like 11 fingers, birthday on the 11th grandchild. Just wild. But I always felt so left out and so disappointed that I didn't also get any extra fingers. Like not even one. All right, not even one.
Do you think it would have influenced your barbecue abilities if you had that extra finger, flip a burger or something like that? A little extra grip on the spatula?
I'd like to think it would have given me a little bit of an upper hand in some way. Now, everybody who has the extra fingers got them removed at birth. So like nobody kept them. They were not good to keep. Basically, for everyone that had the extra fingers, they were growing out perpendicular to their pinky.
Way.
Wow.
And they were real fingers, like with nails and everything. Now, for the youngest, even the youngest generation that has this, I'm going to say that person is in their 30s. Okay. They still at the hospital just tied it with a string and let it fall off. Wow. That was how they did the removal. Even back then. Are you
serious?
So that was still the process. If you're born with an extra finger now, what do they do? I don't know. But even in the 90s, that was still the method.
Micah, let me ask you, no judgment, okay? Just in trying to understand the extra finger, was it just some kind of useless fleshy appendage, or was it actually fully functioning? I know you said it had a nail and it was fully formed, but was it useful?
Mm-hmm. I don't know, because it was always removed in the hospital. Like for everybody who had one, it was removed in the hospital before you went home.
So it was like immediate. Okay.
I don't even, for example, I don't know, like, when the baby closes their hand, did that finger turn too? I don't know. It's not something I actually really thought of, because I knew that every person that had this had them removed pretty immediately. So I was like, I actually don't know if it even was like a bendy finger. Did they have any control over it? Now, there are nerve endings, because the people who've had fingers removed have essentially like a very small bump on the side of their pinky. And if they hit it like on the side of a table, they feel it. Because all the nerve endings are still there. So, but and even with all this, I was still jealous that I didn't get one. I was like, man.
Your family missed out on a great opportunity to really evolve humankind when you think about it, right? Yeah. The way we evolve and we adapt to our surroundings. You keep that sixth finger and maybe it turns into a seventh. All of a sudden you have fingers running up your arms. You have extra feet. Like this is a really good opportunity that may have just been spoiled for us. We're all going to have just 10 fingers and toes, let's go.
The chance remains I could have a child. That child could get the extra fingers, right? Like, because even though I didn't get them, it's probably still in my DNA somewhere, right? Like,
someone's got to take the chance and let the finger stay. See where we go with this thing.
One person's got to be the guinea pig. Micah, it's got to be your and Colin's first kid. If it happens, maybe it doesn't happen. Let's keep
little Maury. We'll see if Maury gets any extra fingers.
Moriarty. Was it typically on the right hand or the left hand, Mike, or there was no rhyme or reason to it?
I think it was for the people who had 11 fingers. I believe it was just, I don't think they had them on the same hand. The person who had 12 had one on each hand. So like they had one, an extra pinky on each hand. They didn't get like one hand with 7 fingers, I don't know though, for the people who only had one extra, if it was the same hand or not. I just thought it was so interesting that it went down 3 generations. It's like you have grandpa, grandpa's kid, grandchild, all in a row like that. I was like, and I got skipped. I'll never forgive them for that. But now, Ben, I want to go to you next because Ben, I've met your parents,
Mhm.
very nice people. And you guys, in my opinion, are an example of like, you look at them and you're like, these people are related. These
Yeah.
people are related. That's a family right there. I look at you guys and I'm like, that's a family. Versus if you saw me with my parents, you might be like, I think that's theirs. I don't think she's just a friend. I think she belongs with them. But you guys, you look a lot alike. Do you share that opinion? Or is this one of those moments where like, we don't look anything alike, like in your mind? How do you feel about this?
I've forgotten that you had met my parents, and I was going to make the joke that it was very privileged of you to assume I was not adopted. But now I can't do that because you have met my parents. But no, I think it's hard for people to look at themselves and see that they look like somebody else. I mean, obviously, there's been people that I've looked at and been like, wow, we do look similar. So I don't know. I think other people see that resemblance more than you see it in yourself. But with that said, I do know there are some similarities. I have my mom's nose. I can see that. And I don't know that I can point out like any specific features, but like if you look at me and my dad together, it's very clear we're related. As a matter of fact, many people over the years, and I've always looked older than I am, which was great when I was younger, not as great as I'm getting older. But people always were like thinking my dad and I were brothers. He's only, I think I was born when he was 19 or 20. So it's like, there's not that big of an age difference. And I look a little older. He looked a little younger for a while there. So it was kind of obvious to see that we were related. I don't know that I can point out like any specific features. I know that sometimes when I look at my hands, I'm like, oh, these are my dad's hands. And that's kind of a weird feeling, like to feel like I see a specific resemblance in that case. But yeah, my nose is like my mom's for sure. My hands are like my dad's. My hairline, I don't know where I got it from, but I got it when I started losing my hair when I was about 15. And I think my mom's side of the family, they all lost their hair early as well.
Bummer.
So I don't know if that's, I think you do get your hair from your parents.
Yeah, that's what they say from
side.
the mom's side, right? The maternal
so.
side, yeah.
But most of my mom's male family members were, gone or not in the picture by the time I was old enough to know them and notice that kind of stuff. So I don't really know. I just know of being told that, but I haven't actually seen them. But yeah, I find the resemblance thing really interesting because with me, I think that, if you look at me and my dad together, it's pretty obvious we're related. If you look at me and my sister together, for me, I can't see it, but other people will look at us together and be like, yeah, you guys are obviously siblings. So it's weird to not be able to see that. But I do find it interesting that some people, you look at them and you instantly know they are brother and sister or mother and daughter or whatever. And other people, you would have no idea in the entire world that they're related. I do think it's weird, Micah, that you wanted an extra finger. Sorry, I'm kind of going off myself here and back onto you. You wanted an extra finger, even knowing that no one actually kept that extra finger, as if you would have had a choice in whether or not you kept your extra appendage. But I wonder about the actual, not to go back kind of serious, I wonder about the actual science of that, the medical science of that, because I wonder if they know, like, okay, well, this finger appears to be functional now, but in the future, maybe it won't be. I know that some people who have extra fingers and they work, and other people who have extra appendages and they don't. So that's really interesting to know that it's in your genes. But
it's like the appendix of appendages, right? Like maybe we all have that at some point, right? For drinking, elegant, like even if you clutch
never mind.
with all four fingers, you still got pinky, elegant drink pinky. You could have your pinky on and your pinky off, which is really, that's a statement.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I want to be clear. I knew I wouldn't have the pinky, but I wanted to be in the club. You know, you go to the family gatherings.
The side of the hand bump club.
Exactly. There's the pinky people. And I wanted to be one of them. Like, I wanted to be the person who got the extra finger and was part of that club. It didn't work out, though. Ben, it's interesting you mentioned, though, some of our personal sort of bias of when we compare ourselves to our family and say like, oh, like I don't really see the resemblance, but other people do, because it's what I say about my sister and I is that we look related but we do have very different features. However, when people would see us as kids, they'd be like, "Oh, are you twins?" And it was just because we were the same height, so they assumed, because I just grew faster.
Yeah.
And so then people just assumed that we were twins, and it's like, we don't look like twins at all, but we would get that so frequently that I'm like, I guess other people think we look a lot alike. So that one that's very true of like, the kind of selective bias of how I see myself versus how other people would see me in a group with my family. And to them, it probably is much more obvious, when I'm with my parents or something. You're lucky that when you're hanging out with your dad, people think that you're brothers. Because for my sister, being the same height as my dad, there was a certain point where people thought she was like my dad's girlfriend. Then and then I was like the small child with them. And because we were out grocery shopping one time and somebody was like, "Your girlfriend's beautiful." And he's like, "That's my daughter." And that poor cashier, but it's like, why would you say it? Why would you say it anyways?
Right.
But yeah, that was a gamble time. Ben, I want to ask, do you and your sister have the same hair color? I'm curious about that. You have what I just going off your beard, you have like a kind of reddish brown hair.
Yeah.
Is that a family trait as well? Or are you an odd man out with that? Because sometimes red hair in particular is one of those like genes that pops up sometimes like generationally, let's say. And like it might skip a couple people and then bam, you get one.
So my mom had kind of reddish hair when she was a kid. I've seen pictures of her as a kid. And it was kind of reddish, but not crazy. My sister, when she was, probably 3 and under, had hair so red it was orange.
Wow.
And I mean, like, you look at Matty and you think red hair, ginger, nothing compared to the way my sister was. She looked like what's the ape
she was on
that
fire.
is totally orange?
An orangutan?
She looked like an orangutan. Now she doesn't look like that anymore. She's more of a dirty blonde. My dad and I both have brown hair, or what hair I have left is brown. But our beards are more red. His is getting a little more gray. Mine's getting there now too.
Wow.
But his beard is a little more red, and mine has always been pretty red as well, as far as traditional red hair that you would think of. So yeah, that seems to be common, but I don't know, because I know a lot of guys who have red beards but brown, or even I've seen black hair with brown beards. So I know there's a reason for that, and there's always, seems like every couple of years I see an article that's like, why men with brown hair have red beards, and I'm like, oh, interesting, there's more of us, and then I don't click on it, and I don't.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now I will say that as much as I can't see, not that I can't see it, it's just not like super obvious, the similarities between me and my parents. With my kids, when my oldest, who's 10, when he was really young, 4 or 5 years old, something like that, I would look at him and be like, that's me. And if you take pictures of me from that age and compare them to him, they look, you can't tell the difference. And except for the fact that the pictures are of different quality, they look very similar. But as he's getting a little older, he's 10 now, he's starting to look a little less like me, or maybe not less like me, but just not as much like I did at 10 years old. So I'm sure he's getting a little bit more of, the mom's side of the family and everything mixing in there. But it's really interesting, because as much as I couldn't see my similarities between me and my parents and sister, I can see it between me and my children. And my kids get confused as twins pretty often, but they're 2 years apart. They're both, blondish boys. They are about the same height, actually, at this point. So, yeah, that's understandable. I guess that people would wonder if they're twins, but it's weird how that works. It's like I can see how someone else looks like me, but I can't necessarily see how I look like them. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. And the pictures is an important piece of this too, of we don't have any pictures of my mom as a baby or a toddler. I think the youngest picture we have of her is maybe when she's in 3rd grade.
Wow.
So we don't have, I don't have any comparison of what I looked like as a baby versus my mom. My Nana would say things like, oh, your baby pictures looked like your mom did too. but I never got to see that for myself. You know, they just don't exist. My dad, there are some pictures of my dad as a very small child, and those I didn't look very much like him in the baby stage at all. But it was neat to be able to actually compare versus having no photos of my mom really when she was younger. Matty, I want to pivot over to you, our other resident redhead. And I want, is this a family trait? Are you one of the randos, you know, that like it popped up and 3 generations later and people are like, where did he come from? What do you got for us, Matty?
Yeah, this is funny because when you brought it up, I was like, well, I grew up, I don't know how my parents dealt with it because I always just claimed I was adopted. My dad, that's no exaggeration, all the time. I'd be like, yeah, I'm adopted. Like I'd sit my parents down and really talk to them and be like, you just tell me like, where did I come from? They're like, you're our son. I'm like, there's no way. I think nowadays I look a lot more like my mom, but growing up, I just definitely looked like they adopted me. Like my dad has jet black hair, more bronze kind of skin. My mom had dark brown hair. She was, I guess, more fair skinned like me. So that made more sense. But I mean, I definitely like right now my hair looks a little more brown because I worked out before this, so I sweat a little bit. But I feel like I my color gets restored every time I'm fresh out of the shower. But yeah, like growing up, I was like pasty, pale white, and I had bright ass orange hair, bright blue eyes, and no one in my family had like any of these real features at all. Like I just looked like I was a random spawn.
That's funny.
I just spawned out of nowhere. And yeah, like as I got older, you know, I kept investigating because I'm like, where did I get this from? Like, why did this happen? I eventually learned my Nana had strawberry blonde hair growing up. And I'm like, well, that's not quite me, but we're getting somewhere. That's the only shred of evidence I got that like where I may have come from. Still to this day, I very well may have been adopted. That would have been okay. You know, I fell into a great family, but I think I don't look much like my family when I was growing up. Nowadays, you know, we talked about like getting your mother's hair. I definitely have my mom's hair. Like we both have like a thinner kind of hair. You know, like I've had to do so many different treatments. Like I talked about like my rosemary oil treatment. Like finally I have a little bit of body to my hair. It took a while to figure all that out. Laylee walked me through like a bunch of hair products because her mom's like a stylist. So I finally got like professional help. Like, there we go. Now I got the hair I've always wanted just in time for me to like turn 30 and my hairline starts receding and then I just lose it all. But that's okay. I'm going to enjoy it while it's here. But yeah, now I have more of my mom's hair. I think you can see more of my mom in me. My dad, we were talking about physical features. I think I got his legs. My dad is, he has super skinny legs and he has a belly and then he has like a skinny chest. Like it's a cartoon design. I always say he's a cartoon character. And so I've just always had long, skinny legs. Like even when I was hitting the gym a lot and I was like I always felt very self-conscious about my legs growing up because like people would always call me like chicken legs or like you should hit the gym. And I'm like, I do hit the gym. They just don't grow. I just had to get a little older because now that's definitely not a problem. But I definitely got that from my dad because no matter what his weight was, when he was his heaviest, his lightest, his legs were just always the same. And I definitely have his legs just long and skinny. There's not much of a difference between my thighs and my shins. Definitely a weird looking proportion there. But that's the thing I definitely noticed most I got from someone in my family. Otherwise, I don't think like when you look at a family photo, my brother is like technically like really my stepbrother, you know, but like we have some resemblances, but nothing crazy. But like when you put my whole family together, I think you can kind of be like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, they kind of look like they're from the same pack. But yeah, I grew up always claiming I was adopted. So that was my experience with family resemblance. You know, I'd hear these tales of like, oh, you had Graham's this or Papa's that. I'm just like, bullshit. No way.
Now, Matty, can I ask, because you're a pretty tall fellow, are both your parents tall? Like, is most of your family tall as well, or are you an outlier there too?
I'm the tallest in my family. Not a mega outlier. My dad is 6 foot. My brother's also 6 foot. My mom's short as hell, though. So I think I just got my dad's height, maybe, at the end of the day. Because, yeah, I was always taller. Like, I grew pretty early. Yeah, I played center in basketball growing up. So, you know, I was that was like, I didn't have a skill, but I had height, so it didn't matter anymore at that point. yeah, I would say that particular quality probably came from my dad's side. I would have to say the height. I got my dad's nose, I think, too.
Well, height for my family is very mixed because my mom's side, all very tall people. My mom was like 5'7". Her brothers are all like 6 feet tall. Everybody on that side of the family is pretty tall. Then my dad's side of the family, for the most part, everyone is 5'2" and under. And I ended up being 5'4". So when I would have like family reunions for my dad's side, my aunts are always fawning over me, like, look how tall you are. And I got to be tall for a day, is what I always said, because for that one afternoon at the barbecue, everyone's telling me how tall I am and wow, look at you. And then you go to school and once again, you're the short kid, you know? And so it's, or hang out with my mom's family. And once again, I'm the short kid. But with my dad's side, it was cool.
I haven't seen you since the Butler event, but I feel like I remember you being taller than 5'4". Then again, my fiance is 5 feet tall and I'm 6'2". Wow. So like we have a big height difference here. So like I think any other woman looks tall next to Laylee, but I remember you being taller than 5'4". At least in my head.
I get that from people, which sounds weird. Of like, even my own mom will be like, "Are you sure?" And it's like the doctor told me my height, the DMV told me my height. All right, like. Everyone seems to be at the consensus that that's how tall I am. I certainly feel it when I can't reach something in a cabinet and I need Colin's help. Or like my mom was notorious for that, actually. She being the tallest one in the house, would put things like the cereal up in the top cabinet, not even thinking about it. And then it's like, you know, we're looking for a step stool to try and get the cereal down, or being like, Mom, come get this. And I mean, as an adult, all right, not as children. Like as adults, my dad and I are like, my dad's using tongs to get things out of the high up shelves, you know, because like his wife put them up there. So yeah, the height was always funny because, and I think part of it too is just having a bit of a lanky appearance, because I have always been kind of a gangly soul. So I think that lends a little bit to me seeming taller. I also never gave up my skinny jeans. I'm never gonna give up my skinny jeans. I don't care what the kids are wearing these days. All of these things add to me looking a little. You mean
skinny
taller.
Genetics, or do you mean your actual skinny jeans?
Oh, I mean like my skinny jeans. Like, you know, I'm not giving up the style. Kids these days wearing their wide-legged pants and all that, and I'm like, fuck that.
Well, yeah, I used to grind skinny jeans. That's like famously so in my high school. Like it would be 90 degrees out, I'm still showing up in skinny jeans because again, I was self-conscious about my legs. This is the one way I was like, I'm sporting something that fits me right. And then I went to go put on a pair of skinny jeans because I was going to like a birthday party for one of Laylee's family members, and I was like, this like is just, I'll just without getting too detailed, like this is hugging me in all the wrong spots. Like this is gonna look wrong, man. Like I can't do this. So I've kind of gotten back into this 90s faded baggy jean style. I'm like, you know what? I can get down with this. I definitely am dadding up my style a little bit. And I'm kind of enjoying it. Like I used to really not like loose clothing. Now I like my big t-shirts, my big pants. So it's so funny to hear you hanging on to your skinny jeans, because I've just started to like, oh, my mom gave me a couple of hand-me-downs to my brother. I put them on, just hugging me again in all the wrong areas. I'm like, I think I'm done with this. I think after like 15 years, it's time for me to hang up the skinny jeans and move on to something else. I've really fallen in love with Izod has these pants. Sorry, I'm going on a whole rant here, but Izod has these pants, and I got to get the name of them, but they look like jeans. I'm sure at our live event, you'll probably catch me wearing them because they look like jeans, but they feel like sweatpants. Like they have all the appearance I require. Like, oh, that guy dresses well. But on the inside, I mean, they stretch. They have like a sweatpants like material. It's fucking fantastic. It's a cheat code. I'll grab it in a sec here.
Yeah,
but sorry, Micah. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Micah. Please go ahead.
No, I'm always down to talk a little bit of fashion. All right. Because the thing with I don't want people to think I'm totally out of loop. All right. When it comes to trends, some things I've given up. All right. I hung up the studded belt. All right. I don't wear that anymore. I gave that up years ago. Oh my God. In my emo days, when I had like the bright white studded belt, all right, with the skinny jeans, shirt tucked in, vest, tie. All right. I was feeling it. All that stuff is gone. Okay. Never. But there are some things I don't give up, like all my DC shoes, you know, shirts, you know, my Fox Racing Company shirts that I still wear, all those things that I just refuse to give up. Dagan?
Micah, I don't think I've ever seen you wear jeans. Not that I really like pay that much attention to what people wear normally.
I think I wore jeans to the live show.
Did you? Okay. Well, again,
Yeah.
I was a little preoccupied, but
Jeans are my going out clothes.
Yeah.
You know, jeans are my like, we're out on the town
Yeah.
tonight. So like every Friday, Colin and I go out to dinner. And like now that the weather's getting nice, I might wear like a skirt or a dress or something, right? But generally speaking, jeans are my formal
That's good
attire.
answer.
You know,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to say that we're going to the Ritz-Carlton. All right. Like we're just going to restaurants that are like business casual. So I'll wear like a nice shirt and some jeans, okay? And that's kind of Colin's dress code too.
So
But
I
what do
found
you got
them
here,
real
Ed?
quick
Oh,
here.
you got
It's
the
the
link?
comfort stretch jeans. Yeah, I put it in our little
I gotta
chat here,
see.
and all the listeners. I
Curious to
really
see what
recommend
these
this.
look
It was a find at a thrift store. I was like, you know what? I'm growing out of my pants from like high school finally. So I was like, I don't want to invest too hard because I got to figure out what works. Saw these two. They had tags on them. They were like brand new. I was like, okay, someone just donated brand new pants. They fit me. Like, let's give it a shot.
They just look like jeans.
They
just
do,
look
but
exactly
dude, they
like jeans.
stretch. It's incredible.
Wow.
It's incredible.
They got the brown
I
ones.
highly recommend people look into them.
They're cheap too.
Again, like
they're inexpensive.
it's a life hack, really. I mean, everyone knows who listens to Constellation. I had a whole topic on it. I love my life hacks. I love when I feel like I'm winning on the low. Right. So this is one way to do it. You show up, you look all business. You know, you can wear your stylish shirts with it. You look like you're wearing jeans, but on the inside and the way it maneuvers, you are not limited at all. It's fantastic. Highly recommend my Izod comfort stretch jeans.
Matty, this
great.
kind of inadvertently played into the whole Izod Lacoste Connecticut yuppie thing. Like you played right into my hands, dude. Played right
the
in.
link he sent was from Walmart, so I think that.
Yeah, well, I was surprised to
Yeah.
see that, and then the price point.
I saw a cheap, a bunch of cheap prices. I thought that'd be a good place
I was
to go.
not expecting that.
But that's also rich people do like Walmart. You know, it's one of those how the rich stay rich. So, you know, yuppies shop at Walmart. Absolutely. You see the lady with the sweater tied around her neck at Walmart. You see that. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Not here.
Dagan.
They're all in sweatpants here.
Cookie Monster
They just look like
pajama
sweatpants.
pants.
They're not.
Tweety Bird specifically. I've had a long-standing thing that the more Looney Tunes characters in the group of people on their shirts, the trashier they are.
Oh, that seems valid.
100%.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because everyone had their favorite, it seems less common now. When I was a young boy, everyone had their favorite. My mom loved Marvin the Martian. I loved Taz, the Tasmanian Devil. I had a Taz backpack that I adored until I spilled an entire Capri Sun in it, and it had to be retired. But like we all had our favorite Looney Tunes, and now I don't think most people have, like kids these days don't have a favorite, I assume.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the revival of Space
That's
Jam,
true.
you know, with LeBron James. Maybe that, you know, renewed some interest in the franchise, but I don't feel like kids have the same connection to it now of like, oh, that one's my favorite. They're probably just like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
I always said that if you see a white woman wearing an oversized shirt with Tweety Bird on it that says "back off," she's probably had a kid or two taken away from her by the government.
I forgot about those shirts, but they are a telltale sign of that. It's just, you know, it's a uniform. It really is.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it in a while. I have to say, it seems like a very aughts to maybe sneaking into the early 2010s type thing. But I haven't seen it, at least around here. Western Pennsylvania is a whole other beast. Let's be honest. Ben, come on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It reminds me of like the Winnie the Pooh moms of everyone knew the mom who was obsessed with Eeyore or Tigger. I knew a Tigger mom who like obsessed with Tigger. This woman had the watch, the sweatshirt, like everything in her car. Like I knew those types of moms. My mom's favorite, I think, was Eeyore. She was a little less obsessed than the lady we knew that loved Tigger so much. But like my mom, actually, there's a picture of me as a baby and my mom's wearing a Winnie the Pooh watch. You know, it's things like that of like, it was just so 90s. The Mickey Mouse watch, the Winnie the Pooh watch, like those things were like mom central. Everybody had the Mickey Mouse denim jacket, right? Or the Winnie the Pooh one. Like you had your Winnie the Pooh moms, your Mickey Mouse moms, and then on the bad side of town, you had the Looney Tunes moms, you know, and it's this, I don't know what moms are into these days though. Like, I don't know what the moms, like how they identify themselves now. But when I was a kid, you chose your sides between Mickey Mouse, Winnie the Pooh, or Looney Tunes. And that kind of kind of set up your friend group and what kind of moms you hung out with.
And their tats, right? And you know what it all comes down to, guys? That era in the mall, Disney store, Warner Brothers store were still a thing. That's where people shopped. You know what I mean? So they had direct access to that merch, and then which character to identify with. I'm more like Piglet. I'm more like Eeyore. Like, you know, it was like that whole thing. You didn't have to even use your imagination. It's like, I relate to this character. I'm going to get the tattoo. I'm going to have the whole kit. You know, the patch on the jeans, the t-shirt, the tat. You know, maybe the themed cons, like the Chuck Taylors. It's going to be bumper stickers on the minivan, the whole thing. You have that.
Oh, the antenna guys, like the Mickey Mouse antenna.
Good
Dude,
call.
we lost so many of those going through car washes, by the way. My mom would always forget to take it off before she went through the car wash. We had one that was a Jack in the Box guy. He disappeared. We had one that was Mickey Mouse. He flew away one day as well. But Dagan, we're going to get to you this time. My brother-in-law, I've observed you and your family. I know what you people look like. I have my own opinions on who I think you look like. But I also, there's people in your family I never got to meet, like your grandparents and things like that. So I'd love to know, within the Moriarty, bunch, how do you feel about the family resemblance between you guys? Any features that you're happy you inherited? Any features you didn't get? Any extra fingers? Tell me all about it.
You know what I was thinking? And I wasn't going to go there. And I know he listens to the show, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I'm just going to let my freak flag fly here a little bit. Because I think about this sometimes, right? Our older sister, Dana, she's not older than me. She's just our older of the two sisters. Let me clarify. She's a year younger than me. Everybody thought she was older growing up just because she was so much more mature. But I don't know, Micah and anybody else who's met Dana, you could weigh in on this. But we grew up to this day saying that everybody says we look alike. Okay.
Yes.
My brother-in-law, my beloved brother-in-law, Derek. What's up, Derek? I think he listens to the show. Married my sister some 20 years ago, right? If everybody says I look like Dana, is my brother-in-law a little attracted to me? Does he think I'm hot? Does he think I'm a little bit hot? Just a little bit hot. I'm not saying he even swings that way. I'm just saying I do think about that from time to time. If everybody says Dana and I look so much alike, does he look at me, maybe raise an eyebrow once in a while? Checking out my butt. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just saying and I don't have to go through this because Helene has all sisters, right? So if Helene had a brother that looked like her, then I'd be like, oh, I guess he's a little hot, that type of thing. It's weird. I know we don't want to talk about it. I know we don't want to.
Oh, no, I'm into this. I think you should keep going.
But
oh, no. Yeah. This is the whole, if both our spouses died and we were single, would we? It leads up to that.
That's a whole thing, because Helene does look like her sisters, and she's the middle sister of the two. I think, I'm a little biased. I think Helene's the cutest, but by far. But, that's the whole thing. As you guys are talking, I never think like this, but like, isn't it weird? Like, we're all like some freak mad scientists in a lab just having a piss. Like, we don't even know. Like, when we go to procreate, it's like we don't know what kind of monster is gonna result. It's like the combination, and that's the weird thing. Growing up, genetics are wild, but it really comes to a head when you have kids, and then you see the result of it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think people have to be a little more responsible. Like a much more homely and just an average-looking dude, and my wife is by far the hotter one. She always has been, right? So for me, when everybody says my kids look like Helene, which they do, they both definitely look like Helene. They look like her side of the family. They just do.
Oh, no.
Here's the thing. It works out for me. I think that's a win. I chalk that up in the win column, right? That's a big W. But here's the weird thing. I always encounter people in my life, whether it's neighbors or friends or people, coworkers, they get insulted. There's this dynamic that exists that people get insulted when they say the offspring don't look like them. And I'm like, but dude, it wasn't like via lack of effort. Like, it just happened the way it happened. You know what I mean? Man. Like, it's not something you should get, you should get all bummed out about. But that's a thing I find myself doing now to overcompensate, because I know how sensitive people are. I don't feel that way. Right. I like it when everybody's like, oh, Lily is 17 now. She looks exactly like her mom. I'm like, yes. Like, sick. She's going to get a lot further in life looking like that than looking like this. You know what I mean? I think, here's the thing. I think you have to be careful. I think if two hot people could create an absolute creature, like I think you got to be careful with that. I think you need one hot, one not so hot. Two ugly people, they're going to make a banger. That's going to be a win. Two ugly people.
Define banger. Because you mean like just a real fucked up looking person? Like,
I just have this thing where I think if two ugly people procreate, they're gonna kind of come up with a supermodel is going to result from that. I just have this thing. I think where you got to be careful is like it worked out for Helene and I, but I think it was very irresponsible because the kids could have ended up looking more like me, and that would have been a less desired result. The only other thing I thought of, Micah, I had a real moment that still makes me cringe, and it's just a few years ago. I guess it was Helene and I and some people in her family. Maybe it was her younger sister, who has a couple of little kids, and my brother-in-law. We were just kind of shooting the shit and having a conversation about family resemblances and genetics and isn't it weird and the whole thing. Which kids look like who and everything like that. About 10 minutes into this conversation, everybody's having a good time. Oh, he looks like this one. I look like my grandfather. Oh, what about, your aunt on this side? Isn't it weird that 50 years later we see like a feature in Lilia that like Aunt Lillian had? And I never even met Aunt Lillian. She was gone even before I met Helene in 95. So like this whole thing. And then I realize that my nephew's in the room. He's 11 at the time, maybe. And he was adopted at birth. So we're having this whole conversation, just forgetting that poor Ben's in the room, my nephew Ben. And it was a extra weird situation for him because my sister-in-law, Helene's older sister, adopted, and her ex-husband adopted him at birth. But it went into the adoption with the intention that it was going to be an open adoption. In other words, he was going to have contact with the birth parents intermittently or however it works. Turned out that the birth parents both, like in the offing, both had serious addiction problems and were never really in touch, and kind of came out in the wash that it was never going to be that way. So it was kind of extra hard situation for Ben, I think. And as he got older, started to realize that. And then I realized that this poor kid's in the room. We're having this conversation. And then it's like, oh man, I mean, he took it in stride. He's actually a really cool kid, but it was one of those things where it was like, oh man, because he doesn't, you know what I mean? I always wonder about that. It's weird. I don't have that many adopted people that close in my life. So I don't know how it is for them. That's a thing when we talk about genetics, family resemblance, even when you get into things like personality, right? And talents and things that are handed down, traits, whether it's physical or, something else. I wonder about that curiosity when you're adopted, because you always hear like those people, they go out and they want to learn more about where they came from and who they came from and the situations and that kind of thing. It's weird. My heart kind of goes out because I can't really relate to that, type of thing. But it is odd that those things, like Ben was saying earlier, like you get certain traits clearly from your mom's side of the family. Like I definitely got the hair gene from my grandpa, my mom's dad, who had like a really big Italian fro, head of hair. He could have lived till he was 100. He would have never balded, that type of thing. Where my dad's side has that receding hairline and stuff like that. So it is, but also I got the I guess the more beneficial hair. I mean, my hair is an unkempt afro if it gets any longer than this. So it has its own, it comes with its own, with its own downside. But I also got my mom's height. My dad's 6'3". Colin inherited a little bit of that. He's about 6 feet, right? And I'm 5'9" on a good day. So it was, I was definitely handed the short gene because my mom's like a dwarf compared to my dad. You know what I mean? She's so tiny. So there's that whole thing of like, you see what you kind of ended up with. And I guess right? By 20, how it's going to play out. So then when you're going to have kids, you're rooting for certain things. So when my son was born, I was like, oh man, I hope he doesn't have the bad hair gene. In other words, the nappy sort of, kind of, Colin has the same kind of hair. You have to keep it short because it's so coarse and so thick and just so hard to manage that there's really no styling it. Right. So I'm thinking, oh man, I hope Graydon doesn't have this, because it was hard growing up in school when a hairstyle comes into play and becomes popular. You can't really do it. You just got to kind of stick with one thing, but Graydon got the hair gene from Helene's mom's side, which is very thin, a little thinner. Like Matty was saying, it's hard on the other end of the spectrum to have thin hair, but something happened where he got hair with enough fullness where he could actually style it. It's straight. It's not curly. It's not coarse. Right. So he lucked out. My kids really did. I mean, I'm a little biased, but they really did luck out. They're both tall. They're both on the taller side. They both got good hair genes. Eye color, I'm neutral on. I think any eye color could be pretty, right? Or could look nice. I don't really care about that. They both got a pretty, darker Italian complexion, so they don't have to worry about being in the sun. You know what I mean? It's not unhealthy for them to be in the sun. So it worked out. But it was like millions of people before us, it was very irresponsible for Helene and I to procreate, because who knows what abominations were going to result in that. Micah, I do think my parting shot is, I know I'm always kind of advocating for this, but I do think you and Colin will have good looking kids, especially if they look more like you. But he could contribute a little bit of that DNA, maybe. Maybe not so much with the personality, but he's pretty handsome at least.
I would be curious, because it is of like, at what point, like, how dark would their skin be, for example? It's like, I'm half black, then our kid would be a quarter, but Colin tans really well already. Like, Colin already has kind of like a medium-ish skin tone. So like, that's something I'd be curious about. Hair texture. When I was a kid, my hair was not curly. It was just a very soft wave. And it only got curly as I got older. I'd be really curious what our kids' hair texture would end up being like, because on both sides they'd have thick hair as a trait. But then it's like, would it end up being straight? Would it end up being curly? There are things. Would they end up having extra fingers? There are things I'd be curious about. I'm still on the fence about the whole kid thing, but I am curious about whether or not, like, what would they look like? Would they end up short though? What if I ended up having boys and they ended up being 5'2" like the rest of my family? I don't know. I'd be a little. I'd feel bad.
Kings.
Well, Micah, you're both
exactly.
You're both on the fence still about having kids. I know this, and as the big brother and big brother-in-law, I know I push a little bit. I feel like I take the mom role with that a little bit. I want to see it happen, but I never talked to you about this. Do you? And I don't know about Colin either with this. Actually, oddly, we never had this conversation. But do you prefer, if you had kids, are you of the mind that you would rather have boys or girls, or both, or you don't care?
I'd rather have boys, only because I feel like they'd be way easier to relate to. I, at 30 years old, am very bad at talking to women. I don't find a lot in common with most women. They're very scary. They don't say what they mean. It's like, they're puzzles. And I don't fucking like puzzles. Not in video games, not in real life. Like, don't puzzle me, man. Like, if you want, tell me what you mean and say it, and let's get over it. And it's actually something I talked to my therapist about, because I was like, I struggle to form relationships with other women because I feel like they don't speak directly. There's always a hidden layer of subtext or some shit. And she's like, well, women do that a lot because they're often having to kind of like hide their feelings a little bit, soften the blow because XYZ. And I'm like, I get it, but damn, bro, just tell me what the fuck you feel, man. Like, just be straight with me.
Me in high school.
I just like, a lot of this is too, like, I grew up with like mostly hanging around the other boys my age and playing sports with them. Like my sister and I are always playing sports with the two boys down the street. I then go to a technical high school and I'm in the machine shop program.
Right.
There's only one other girl in there with me. I work at a factory. Like the reality is just that most of my life has been spent around men instead. And I just find them easier to chat with and easier to relate to. I do have girly hobbies. I love to bake. I love to do cross stitch and arts and crafts. But even that sort of falls into the nerdy girl category versus the cool girl category. Because like cool girls usually aren't doing arts and crafts and shit. So like those women, I don't know what the hell to talk about. If anybody who's artsy or who likes cooking or baking, I can talk to, you know. But when it comes to like the cool girls, I got nothing. It feels like we're on a date and I hate it.
Yeah. My wife's like that
right.
too. Yeah.
That's the thing. I get along great. Your wife and Dustin's wife, Holly, like when we see each other for live shows, it's like so easy to talk to them because they're just normal.
Yeah.
They're just normal ladies, you know, versus I don't know what to do with some of these women. I'm just like,
Girls
I don't
can be
know.
tricky.
It feels
They are.
Yeah. So I feel it's like, yeah, I am one. And I still feel like I'd rather have boys just because I'm like, I think it'd just be easier, even if we have nothing in common. There's no guarantee that your kids will enjoy your hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
But even if we didn't share hobbies, I just enjoy the directness of speaking to men generally. I just feel like they're a lot easier to understand, you know, but yeah, I think Colin has said to me before he would, if we had kids, like, oh, it'd be cool to have like one of each, you know, just to experience both the kids or whatever.
That's a
but
good outlook.
I'd rather have just boys if I were to have them.
They are easier. I mean, I think about having one that I have one of each, and I think about how close I am with my daughter at 17, how comfortable it is, but it came at not labor, but I think about how much time and how much work I put into that relationship from day one. You know, if I didn't do that, I'm not sure we would be where we are now. You know what I mean? With my son, it required, they got the same amount of resources in every way, energy, money, the same thing. But my son would have, in retrospect, now being 13, almost 14, he would have required less. It just takes less, that bond. There's just something, girls are just, I think girls are a lot. Honestly, I really think that it comes down to girls just being a lot smarter. And the complication just comes with that. You know, my son's very bright. I mean, he keeps up with my daughter in school and everything. It's not an academic thing. It's not how successful they're going to be. It's just something, there's something in having a girl, like having a daughter, that makes you understand women even more so, or even less so, I should say, because it's like, wow, I experience this human being daily from day one over the course of almost 20 years now. You see exactly what goes into it. It's so different. It's so different. So yeah, it's interesting. I never thought I would even have sons. I had a thing where I just always thought I would have girls. I don't know why I even thought that. You know what I mean? Maybe because I grew up with two sisters and I didn't have a little brother until I was 11, that type of thing. But yeah, man, it's so interesting to see the genetic thing play out, because it's not just, you know, like in our case, right? Moriarty, Ruggiero, right? You're coming in, they came together, it's now you go back, Ruggiero goes back to Torriello, right? Moriarty goes back to Himpler. It's like all these people kind of converge generationally, and then they kind of build to this thing. And physically, it's kind of funny because it either works out or it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like the features get more played up, they get more diluted. You know, it gets more appealing, it gets a little more homely, whatever type of thing. It seems, what do you guys think of this? This is a kind of painting with a broad brush, but I think about this from time to time. Like, do you guys think people are generally getting better looking? Because I definitely feel that way. When I moved to Philadelphia, I grew up in New York.
I don't leave my house enough.
Yeah. You know what, Matty?
I had to think for a second. I'm like, shit. Right?
You know what? That's a great, I didn't really leave my house very much until like 8 weeks ago. I was home for like 5 years, you know? But I remember moving, I grew up in New York, very, you know, densely populated, a lot of people, a lot of good, you know, I think by association, lots of good looking people. I just grew up with a lot of good looking people. Moved to Philadelphia, 100 miles away. And my first, no offense to Philly, you guys, Philly, you know I love you. when I got to Philly to go to college, I was like, the girls are fucking homely here. I've never seen anything like this. It's like, where are the hot girls at? And eventually, and then you realize that's so stupid. It's a college town. These people from all over the world, if not the country, that whole thing. But I don't think if I moved to Philly now to go to college, I would think the girls were all ugly. You know what I mean? So I think of that. I think people are generally getting better looking. What is that? Or do you guys disagree?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I agree or disagree. And this is probably a philosophical discussion that will take longer than we have. But I wonder if over time our standard of beauty or what we find attractive, not only as we age, but as society changes how that looks. I remember wasn't that long ago that if I saw a 45-year-old mom, I'd be like, not interested. And now I'm like, she's okay looking, like, it's a little different when so things change. 100%. And I think that societal standards of beauty change and we morph with that, even in a lifetime, let alone generations. But I don't know. I don't know that I've really noticed a difference in the people around me. I don't mean people like I already knew, like new people entering my life being more or less attractive.
Ben, you make a really good point, which I think speaks to aging, where I look at, like the hot mom thing is a great point. I see a hot mom many times. They're younger than me. I'm so old now, right? But they could easily be in their 40s. And I wonder, would 22-year-old Dagan look at that woman like that? I don't think so. I think your standards get, with age, I don't know what happens. I don't think it's a softening. I think it's like, that sounds terrible. I don't think it's like I think it's just as you grow and you're aging yourself, maybe it's that, that man in the mirror thing where it's like, you're obviously old. You're casting a wider net of what looks good to you, I guess, or what's appealing. So maybe I
think it's just personal preference, like to some degree too, because like I've just always liked older men. Like when I was a kid, my celebrity crush was Mel Gibson. When I was 7. Right. It's
Mine
just, or Ted Danson. Right. And it's just one of those things of like, I think some of it's just personal preference of like, I just think old men are great. But versus, it also too, Ben, when you yourself are getting older, I look at young people, like I see kids that are like college age and I'm like, they just look like children. They're not attractive to me because they look like children. Is that partly
Hear this one though, Micah?
Yeah.
Think about maybe Micah, since you were interested in older guys, I don't know, but for the boys here, think back to when you were like 16 and the girl you were interested in. In your mind, is she still attractive? Are you a pedophile?
You're not talking about the current state of them. You're talking about,
in your mind, is that girl that was attractive to you when you were 16, who was also 16, in your mind, is she still attractive? If so, you're thinking about a 16-year-old girl being attractive and you're a pedophile. That's my stance.
And now Ben's going to start taking out the notes and he's got the chat logs and this has turned into one of those videos.
That's great.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Micah, but I had to get it in.
Oh, no. Yeah. It just is like, I see college kids now and they're just so fresh faced and I'm like, oh, they're gross. They're children. I don't know, though, if partly because I know like our nephew, for example, who's going to be entering college this fall. Is it because I have known this person for the past almost 4 years and that I'm like, yeah, college kids are children? Or is it just because, yes, I am now 30 and I look at these people, I'm like, oh, they're so grossly young. Get out of here. Right. Like I don't know what it is. If it's that my own tastes of people have progressed as well, or if it's because of that relationship I have with someone that age. And I'm like, there is nothing in me that would be interested in dating a 19-year-old. Right. So it is a curious thing of where maybe it's a combination of reasons. Maybe it's that I like old people already. Therefore, I'm just more apt to date old people. That's probably where we're going with this. So I'm sorry, Matty, you're just too young for me.
It's also,
it'll never work.
I'm sorry.
It'll just never work.
Oh man. I think it's an emotional maturity thing too. Like that's a huge part of it. Like that was one thing when I was single and dating, like, you know, I was like, I think I was 24 when I met Laylee, but yeah, like I just was not interested in like anyone in college because it's a small age gap at that point. Like, oh, I'm 21, they're 24, but they're in a totally different part of their lives. You just realize. And I was just like, I need someone my age who's doing the same thing I'm doing, which is like you're out of college and you're looking for the next thing. And so that's also why just like you look at them, you're like, nope, never. Nope. So fucking annoying.
Yeah, people have to be able to go on their journey. If you're not going to take that journey or be able to really like be empathetic and relate, which I don't even know who could be that empathetic and, you know, have that kind of memory for like, oh, I was going through that 10 years ago, that type of thing. If you're not just cashing in on the physical, you know, rewards of it, then yeah, that would be tough for sure. Yeah, it's a good one, Micah. It's given me a lot of food for thought too. Like I'm thinking of even a Ben's thing, which is actually kind of a funny thing and makes us all little villains, right? But like, I think of like aging and how disappointing it is. It's so sad to say this. It sounds so mean, and I'm sure people feel this about me too. Is that like seeing people age could be so disappointing that the people that are aging pretty well is always a treat. Like when you see somebody like, let's say from high school or just 20 years in your past, maybe somebody you worked with early on or something, you see them again and they still look like at least an approximation of how they looked back then. It's like, oh, right on. Because so many people, we just went to Helene's 30-year reunion, right? Was it her 30 year? Is that right? Yeah, that must be right. 25 or 30, whatever it was. And I didn't even know these people, right? I didn't go to high school here. I was like, oh my God. Like, I can't believe just how generally old these people look. But I must look the same way. But, you know, your perception of yourself is so different. You know, I think I'm aging a little better than most people, but I'm certainly aging, especially at my age. Like, it's inevitable, right? 50 years old, it's going to happen. The grays are coming, like everything's happening. But yeah, I think you guys, Mike, I think you're going to age. I mean, you still look like you could be in your early 20s, right?
Oh, wow.
I think.
Thank you.
Is that just because I'm so old? I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Micah, you look very young. Yeah.
I will not comment on a woman's age at all.
Well, I was feeling not real bad, but I was joking with Colin. I was feeling bad because I bought wine yesterday for a recipe and I didn't get carded. And the girl was younger than me. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm old. That's it. Because this was like a high school girl and she didn't even bother to card me. So I was like, okay, there it is, everybody. I'm old.
No, I would have carded you, Micah. 100%.
Thank you. Making an old lady feel good. But no, this was a fun topic. I'm glad that we got into this one. The tangent was also fun. But I'm glad you guys were good sports about this because I was nervous to send this topic only because I'm like, this might come off as weird.
No.
But I'm glad you guys had fun with it.
That's a great one. I think it's one of those topics where I was like, I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet. I can't believe somebody thought about it. And I wish I thought of this topic, Micah. So awesome job. Matty, I want to move on to you next. Now, as I said, I don't know your topic. Take it away. Okay. Maybe don't go to me first. Let me digest for a minute. But the floor is yours, my friend.
All right. I think I'll end up going to Micah first with this because I think she'll have some thoughts more recently as well.
I got notes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so my topic is playoff sports. As a huge hockey fan, it's that time of year. We have the Stanley Cup playoffs going on right now, where at least as of the time of recording this, in the conference finals, it's the Oilers and the Stars playing each other and in the West, and then you have the Rangers and the Panthers playing each other in the East. I happen to be long-term fans of both the Rangers and the Oilers, so my worst dreams very well may come true, which is that, yay, one of my teams is going to win, but they may face each other. We'll see how it all pans out. Anyway, the basketball playoffs are on now, and in a few months we're going to have baseball playoffs. And I was just thinking a lot about playoff sports lately. I feel like I always come in with a heavy-handed topic. Let's get deep, everyone. I was like, let me do something a little more aloof for once and just talk about playoff sports in general, how it makes us feel, any particular investment or lack thereof, and what sports does to people. I've never been in a fist fight before. The closest I ever got was at a playoff hockey game, not by my own fault, might I add. Like, a guy got in my face, But many people I'm sure can already gauge I'm not an aggressive person. Like I'm just not built that way. I always like to use my words, defuse. It's how I'll always operate my entire life. But there's something about playoff atmosphere that just brings out, maybe you could say, the best or the worst in people, right? And how uppity it gets, especially in playoff hockey. I mean, these players put it all on the line. They're diving for pucks. They're taking their biggest shots, the hardest shots. They're putting it all out on the line. The rowdiness of the crowd adds a lot to it when a goal is scored. It's not just like your normal, like, okay, we scored. It's like everything matters. This is it. And then there's the existentialism aspect of it. For me, like, I love the New York Rangers. I love the New York Mets. Like, these are probably my two favorite teams that I feel the most passionately about. And I get existential when they are doing terrible in the playoffs. Like the Rangers have been doing really good in the playoffs. They just got smoked by the Panthers they're playing again tonight, but game one was not good. I was already worried going in. I was like, this is a very solid hockey team. They go in, they clean us up pretty well, shut us out. I'm just like this. I'm like, what the existentialism kicks things. I'm like, I'm never going to see them win a championship. Like I see, because what happens is they'll make it to the cup or something like that. And what does the TV broadcast do? They show these like 80-year-old motherfuckers who are like, yeah, like I just wanted to see it win once my whole lifetime. I'm like, yo, that's going to be me. That's going to be me. Like, no, man, like you got to win once. If I get it checked off, I'll still watch, but my level of like relief will carry me through the rest of my life. I grew up as what I would say is a fair weather Yankee fan. I was not quite Dagan Moriarty in the terms of the Yankee fanship. I was grandfathered in, and I watched, like many New Yorkers, them win championship after championship. And what was, you see like the old commercials and the atmosphere of early 2000s, late 90s baseball and the rivalries. I mean, just incredible. You really miss that nowadays. There's almost too much. I'm sure you'll agree, Dagan. There's almost too much gentleman-like behavior in baseball. Yeah. It's like I would love for a little more rowdy.
It's very classy
Yankees,
now, yeah.
Red Sox. Yeah, which I get. It's the gentleman's sport, but I almost would love to see a little more rowdiness from both teams. I miss those days, but I know that was a special era and we'll always celebrate it. But yeah, growing up during that, I was, grandfathered into this team and I enjoyed them growing up. But as I got older, I think the Yankee fans really ruined it for me. I've realized like they were claiming things that they probably never lived through. Like, oh yeah, we won a bunch of championships, but it's like, dude, you're like 10. Like, you don't know, you weren't there. And so why are you claiming this? And the way they operated, the way they spent money. I say all this because eventually I transitioned to being a Mets fan. They make it in 2015 in this very unlikely Cinderella run, and they lose to just the Royals, who were on this dominant run. And much like when the Rangers went in 2014, I experienced heartbreak back-to-back years. Like both times they go all the way and there's just this team, like the Kings had a dynasty. The Royals were just like that team that year that you just couldn't figure out how to beat them because they were playing a different type of contact baseball. And so both my teams back-to-back years just lose it all. And then, you cope with it. You go, all right, like, see you soon. We'll be back. And you realize then you're like, how long it takes. Like the Mets haven't sniffed close to that and are awful this year. The Rangers won the President's Trophy, so that means they're the number one team in the league. That's not good because now that means we're likely not going to win at all. And so I want to celebrate this great season and watch them break the President's Trophy curse of like, hey, the number one team can win it all. But like when they start to lose, I start to lose it. I'm like, dude, like, come on. It very much upsets me, not for like days on end, but like the night of, I will be in a mood. I'll be like, I'm bummed, man. Like, I'm not okay with this. And some people, like Laylee's not into sports at all. She doesn't trivialize it. She knows what it means to me. But but like her sympathy is always like goes this far because she's just doing the right thing as a partner necessarily, but not like understanding, if you will, like why I'm just like, oh my God, they're going to lose. Like I'm never going to see them win a championship. And that's always my mentality is like they lose it all. And I'm like, I'm never going to see it happen. Like I'm going to die and the Rangers will never have hoisted the cup in my lifetime. I'm going to die and we'll never see the Mets hold up the World Series trophy. And so it's so funny just how I'm like, and then I pulled out this year. The Rangers lost. They're still in it right now, but they lost. I felt it start creeping in. I was like, wait, let's simplify things. Matt, you're feeling this way about a bunch of grown men chasing a rubber thing on ice. It's kind of trivial when you think about it. I'm lucky I get to watch this. these, like this gladiator level sport of guys punching each other and hitting each other at the same time as throwing a piece of rubber into the back of a net. It's very, very caveman like, it's very just early days. And here I am getting upset about it. So I felt I pulled myself out of it a little bit. Right. But then I got thinking of this topic. I'm like, wow, this is a whole mental exercise for a sport to be enjoyed. The team investment that's there, it's so strong for people. It's funny. I preach against like console tribalism because I can't stand like how fanboys are. But I wouldn't say I'm like toxic in sports, but it's like, I think some of what how I behave and how I react to these teams and my fanship, I'm like, well, that's kind of what I preach against. So am I being a hypocrite as well? So I've just been thinking deeply, unnecessarily deeply, on playoff sports. And Micah, I know as a Bruins fan, you recently experienced some heartbreak. I wanted to go through like your emotional reaction to the events, but also just like how you fare during these times of years. I know you love your Boston sports, and just I think that, I don't know if you watch basketball. I know the Celtics have gone pretty far. So just how you're feeling in general, because that's the other thing. Like the Knicks were doing really well. I just want to throw this out here, then I'll get to you. Like the Knicks were doing well. I can't stand basketball. I hate basketball, not because it's a bad sport. I think the Golden State Warriors ruined the sport. The drawing of fouls, the amount of times I turn on a game and I watch these guys go up in the air and lean into someone to draw a foul. I'm like, this is the most stop and go flip floppy sport I think I've seen in my whole lifetime. It is in a terrible state as far as I'm concerned. Can't stand it. But like, it's not like if the Knicks win, it's like, I'm not going to claim that. I'm not a basketball guy. I just can't. So that's the other thing I worry about. It's like now we got another New York team sniffing around. They're not going to have multiple New York teams just winning back to back. That's just not how things go. It's just the law of averages. The universe will play its hand, and it's just not going to go that way for me. So I kick it to you, Micah, on wondering where you're at with playoff sports and just how it makes you feel and how you've dealt with the highs and lows of it, and if it means this much to you.
Oh, yeah. It absolutely means a lot to me. Generally speaking, during the playoffs, it feels real bad. And I say that having been lucky to be a Boston sports fan my whole life and to have some pretty good teams. Okay. I got to see the Patriots win many Super Bowls. I got to see the Celtics win the championship in 2008. Like that was when I was still a big basketball fan. I stopped watching probably around 2012 because it was just like, I'm really busy. I'm in college. I'm working. I am just like swamped. And it was just too much. That was when I started to realize I could pick two sports, And I've become a two-sport person as an adult of like, I follow hockey and football. That's enough. Yeah. And adding on basketball to that or baseball, it's just too much. But the playoffs for me, very stressful. It's on the one hand, it's full of hope of like, we made the playoffs. We have a chance at the championship, right? On the other side, especially hockey, is so cutthroat. The stakes are just so high. Every Bruins game I watch, my heart is just like in my stomach because I'm just like so worried, and this year was better than last year because we at least made it to the second round. I was terrified of playing the Panthers again. I was hoping that the Lightning would beat them in the first round. Didn't happen because I was like, I'd rather play the Lightning than the Panthers. Did not happen. And it just was. I resigned myself after a couple of those games to be like, we're not going to win this, when it got to the point that we had to win 3 in a row to force, game 7, I'm like, we're not going to win this. It's not going to happen. Right. So I was like, okay, that's fine. That's cool. It is what it is. But last year I was like really upset when they lost just because the season ended so prematurely. I felt, getting knocked out in the first round, getting the second round. I feel like, okay, we did well. And I'm already excited for next year. What I often feel like at the end of the playoffs is it's less about the disappointment that we lost, because you get to commiserate with other fans about that. And like, we're kind of all miserable. But what I felt more than anything, and I've been trying to be more like open with my dad about like emotional things. I realized that like, I'm the type of person who's like, Dad knows I care. And I don't say it enough, but I'm like, he knows, and he does. He does. But I am trying to be more present with Pops. And I told him when they lost that game, I said, what I'm most bummed about is not getting to recap the hockey games with you anymore, because after
Wow.
every day, the next day after the game, my dad and I would text about what went wrong or what went right. And we always would kind of recap the games together. And I was like, that's what I'm going to miss the most now that the series has ended. And that's always what sports is for me, is that time spent with family, whether it was my sister and I watching basketball with my Nana. She's a huge basketball fan and she hated the Celtics. So she'd always be rooting against us. Every Celtics game, my sister and I are big Celtics fans, and she'd be making fun of Paul Pierce and making fun of Shaq when he was on the team. She hated Shaq so much. Nana couldn't stand him. And so it was those memories, or watching football with my dad and his mom, my Grammy, who's a big football fan, and her mom was too. Great grandma Alice was a really big fan. She was a Giants fan originally because the Patriots didn't exist yet. And when the Patriots, came into the league, then, great grandma Alice was a huge Patriots fan, and she was until she died. And that's part of where it comes from, is just like for my whole family, sports are a big part of how we spend time together. We have been lucky, as I said, that we've seen a lot of playoff games with our teams in them. It immediately becomes less exciting when your team exits the playoffs, but it's also, in a way, a relief of like, well, the stress is over. There's the disappointment, but like, football season, for example, Patriots haven't been good last couple seasons, but in a way, it's the most stress-free playoffs ever because I'm just waiting to see who wins. I have no horse in this race, and I'm just waiting to see who wins. In some ways, I'm very happy because it's just like, well, yeah, at least I'm not stressing about it, right? But with hockey especially, which is a sport that means the most to me, it's impossible not to get like really emotionally invested and to kind of be stressing out about it. My mom would always make fun of me for Celtics games because if they lost when I was a kid, I'd always say I was going to bed mad. And that was our joke my whole up through high school. It was always, if the Celtics lost, she'd be like, you're going to bed mad again, But I want to say specifically with the Bruins, especially, I got to see them win the Stanley Cup in 2011. My dad and I got to watch that Game 7 together. We watched the whole series together.
Nice.
And that was a really special playoff series. They were playing the Canucks. And in that run, that, finals, whoever scored the first goal won each of those games. And so it's Game 7. All right, this is it. It's for all the marbles. And the Bruins scored first. And my dad and I lost our minds, because we were like, this is it. This is it. Like, we're going to win this one, right? And for my dad, he had seen the Bruins win the cup. It was 70 and 72. So, but these were when he was a kid. The Bruins hadn't won the cup since then, right? So it's like my dad hadn't seen them win since he was 10 years old. And so we're watching it together. They win the game. We go absolutely bananas. All right. And just getting to share that with him. I'm a senior in high school. Now I've seen them win. I won't at least be the guy who's 80 and never got to see his team win, right? Like, if we never win again, at least I got to see that one and got to see it like with my dad, And what made it like even more special is it's just because it's one of those memories that we talk about periodically. Like, I mentioned it in my wedding vows, even, because it was just like one of my favorite days ever with my dad. And he got me for Christmas a book that Sean Thornton had wrote. And in the book, my dad wrote, the 2011 Stanley Cup will always be my favorite because that was the one I watched with you.
Oh, wow.
And it's things
That's
like
sweet.
that. Like, my dad got to see him win. I'm trying
That's
not to
so
cry.
sweet.
It's so stupid.
That bond is so awesome. That's like the best part.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, and that's the thing. It's like he got to see them win 3 of these, but it's like that was the best one. So
Absolutely.
I know for people who like aren't into sports, it seems silly, but it really is. It's like, it's more than the sport itself. It's about like those memories with friends, family, whoever you watch your games with, whoever you enjoy all those games with. And like, that's really what it's all about. And the playoffs only dial that up to 11. It's one thing during the whole season when Pops and I are, talking about the Patriots and how they're doing and kind of analyzing the game. It's one thing to do that during the season, but during the playoffs, like, now it's getting serious. Now it's for all the marbles, right? And I do love that feeling. Everyone always says that there's nothing like playoff hockey. It's 100% true. Someday I hope to go to a playoff game in person. That would be really awesome. But no, yeah, Matty, when I saw this topic, I got really excited because it is just like there's a uniqueness to the playoffs. Can't be matched during the regular season. If you're lucky enough for your team to get there, it really is just like, we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. I do have to do the same thing you do. Sometimes tell myself it's just a game.
Yep.
You know, it's
Lower
just a
myself.
game.
Yeah.
Don't go to bed mad. Your blood pressure's getting high. You're only 30. All right. You can't, your Apple Watch is like, are you all right? You know, you gotta dial it down a bit. But yeah, playoff sports, man, it is like nothing else. And I've been a very fortunate Boston fan to get to see some really incredible playoff runs in my day.
It's a beautiful story about your dad. And now I got a little claim to fame here on Constellation. I can say my little topic made Micah weep. So there's that. Ben, I don't know much about your sports history. I'm very curious because I know Dagan told what I think is an all-timer story on Constellation. I was so lucky to be a part of it when you told, I think it was Terry Francona to go fuck himself. That is still like, I tell that story as if I was there, bro. I was like, that was one of the best things I ever
so
heard.
random.
Like, just this incredibly sweet soul that I know had this hardcore sports fan moment and told one of the managers to fuck himself. So I'm excited to get the Dagan stories, but Ben, I feel like I'm in the dark on your sports history if there is any. So I'd love to hear from you on this.
So for the last, I don't know, decade or so, I've been a very casual sports fan, to the extent that like I don't need to watch a game, but if I get to watch a game, and this goes for mostly for me for football and hockey both. I like baseball, but you know, Pittsburgh, where I've been for most of my life now, haven't had a good team in ever. A long time. So it's been harder, but at the same time, like I like going to games, eating the food, hanging out with friends. Like it's fun, but it's not my thing. So I was always into football, and I don't really have any good football stories though. Like my buddies and I, we would all go to one of our friends' house. His mom, this was all the way up through college. His mom would make amazing food. We were always like the same group of people. We were all in the same youth group, so we had a bunch of other friends that would pop in and out over the years. You know, just really good memories there, and especially good playoff and Super Bowl memories with those people. But nothing that's really like stands out. But in 2006, my grandma was she went to hospice. She was dying, and this was about 6 hours from us. So I had been there, but I was in college. I had just started college, and I'd been there for weeks, and I was just missing classes, and I had to get back. So I came back by myself. My parents stayed there. They were able to afford the time off work or whatever the situation was at the time. I don't hardly remember what my mom was doing, but my dad was able to get off work and everything. And I came back, and it was pretty much just me at my house and driving back and forth to school because it was close enough that I could do that at the time. And all my buddies were like, you know, trying to keep me, you know, busy thinking about stuff because I was really close with my grandma. And one night, one of my best friends, who's now my brother-in-law, and another friend of ours were like, "Hey, there's this thing called Student Rush that the Penguins have. The Penguins, starting in 2006, you know, that's when Crosby was kind of blowing up. Sidney Crosby was kind of blowing up, and we got Malkin in 2006, and things were really kicking off. But prior to that, for many years, the Penguins just had been in a big slump. So I don't know if other teams do this, but they had a thing called Student Rush, where if you had a college student ID, you could get into the game for, at the time, it was either $10 or $20. And basically, they just used you as seat fillers for the cameras. So whatever the best seats were available is where, like, that nobody bought because they were too expensive for a team that nobody cared about, they would stuff the students in. So you'd stand in line, you'd pay your $20, you'd get one of the best, you'd get right on the ice sometimes.
Wow.
So anyway, I had never cared about hockey up to this point, never even probably watched a game unless it was just like, you know, at a restaurant because I wasn't old enough to go to the bar or anything at the time. And I went with them, and it was great. It was amazing. It was I can't remember. I'm really bad, and you're going to find this throughout what I'm telling here. I'm really bad with dates, with names of teams sometimes. I used to be really good, but not anymore. Anyway, one of Sidney Crosby's like big achievements, I think it was 100 points in a season. Like he got to his 100 points by that point, whatever it was. They won the game. It was awesome. I was like, man, I like hockey. Like, I really like this environment. I love it. So I knew I was going to get into it. And it was cool, too, because I was also getting in at a time when the team was starting to do better than they had done before. So it's always good to become a fan, you know. People really like that when you become a fan while a team's on an upswing.
They love that.
So I got home that night from the hockey game, and my dad called me, and my grandma had died like that night while I was at the game. Or actually, I don't remember exactly how it worked, but somehow I found out that my grandma had died. So I don't know. I still have often wondered, like, if there's some connection to the fact that my grandma died and I had just come back home and wasn't able to be there, that kind of like formed that bond in my brain. And also going to my first hockey game had like formed that bond in my brain of liking hockey and needing to like keep it alive in myself or something. I don't know. That's probably more psychoanalysis than I want to do on myself. But I got really into specifically hockey to the point where I not only needed to watch every game, I would get, and this is not an exaggeration, I would feel physically ill if I was missing a game. It didn't need to be a playoff game. And this story is probably more about just sports in general than playoffs specifically. But it didn't need to be a big game or anything. It was just, if I was missing a game, I was physically ill. So I was going to class, mind you, this was 2006, 2007, 2008. Before we really had smartphones, I had a phone, but it wasn't like, I couldn't watch anything on it. I'd take my laptop to class, sit in the back of the lecture, and because I'd had evening classes too, sit in the back of the lecture and have one headphone in, and you know, listen to the game while kind of watching it on the screen if I could. And so I was really into stuff. Now, eventually, I did have to say, like, okay, I just between football and hockey, I have to take a year off and just go cold turkey on this, and it almost killed me. But now I'm to the point where I can just, if I catch a game, I really enjoy it. If I don't, I barely even know that I missed it, which is, I think, is a good, healthy place for me to be.
You paid your dues. You know you're a fan now, so you don't need to watch every game.
Exactly. I don't think I have an addictive personality, but when it came to sports for a while there, I was in deep.
Yeah,
anyway,
it activates something in you. It's strange.
Yeah. So there were, because of those couple years, and even up till a few years ago, the Penguins were making the playoffs pretty frequently. So we were always doing something huge, something big, going to, you know, getting together at somebody's house or throwing up a projector in their backyard.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, ordering 15 pizzas and having the whole neighborhood come over or whatever. There were 2 years when the Penguins were faced against the Red Wings in back-to-back in the Stanley Cup. And for one of those years, I was in Chicago. And I know it's not Detroit, but Chicago's close enough that that's who they were rooting for. And I just happened to be there during it. And of course, because I was addicted to sports, I had to go and like watch the games at, you know, a local sports bar or something, even though I was on vacation or traveling there for a meeting. And I just remember, you know, wearing my jersey and the intense. Now, there's Pittsburgh fans everywhere in the world, specifically Steelers fans, but there's also just Pittsburgh fans everywhere.
Oh yeah,
right.
And just remember, like, walking down the street. One night we lost. I was there, walking down the street and just getting heckled. The next, and like heckled, like made fun of, you know, for liking the Penguins. The next night we win, walking down the street and just getting trash thrown at me and stuff from around. Like, It was just, and this isn't even in the opposing team's city. This is in an entirely different city, but you know, the fan base. So I don't know. I've always had just a good relationship, or an amazing relationship. Sometimes unhealthy, but sometimes good. But I've always loved, since that 2006, I've loved hockey. I've specifically loved the Penguins. Always really enjoyed the playoffs. I got to go to many, many games because of that student rush program. And then my girlfriend at the time was super into hockey as well. I don't remember if she was into hockey before we started dating or not. So we went to a lot of different playoff games. It would always be like, okay, well, you know, we're in college, whatever. This is Christmas, dating anniversary, birthday, all combined here. So, you know, whatever, we'd figure it out and go to the games. And got to go to a couple actually Stanley Cup games in Pittsburgh, which was just phenomenal experience. And I now, like, you know, with a family and everything, there's no way I could afford the tickets, especially because I got to go to the last game in the old arena and the first game in the new arena. That was really cool, but the tickets are they're too much for me to justify, you know, picking up now. But anyway, I went from being physically ill anytime that I missed a game to in 2017. Again, I'm bad with dates. When they won the cup, I was watching the final game, watching them win while also trying to order Hamilton tickets because a new batch had just dropped. So I've got a much better relationship now with it than I did in the past. But that anytime I think about the Penguins, I always think about my grandma. They're synonymous in my brain. And so that's like a cool memory, but also like, you got to just know yourself, man. I know that I can't get as deep into it as I used to be because it was not just a fun obsession. It was a debilitating illness for me personally. And I just had to kind of separate. But no, I love sports. I specifically love hockey. And it is less fun when your team doesn't make the playoffs. But it didn't matter for a time there. Whoever was playing on any given night, I would either watch it or listen to it, whatever I could, especially during playoff season. And yeah, it's just, I love it. And sometimes I think like, man, I should pick up this pack. You know, they're always selling the packages, the sports, the different games. Like, I should pick up this, and I'm like, nope, because then I will get nothing done. I know myself well enough to know that I will just get sucked in. So.
It's so funny you really hang on that point, because what I've noticed is like my productivity is staying the same, but I notice my focus isn't as sharp right now because, especially now with the conference finals, it's worse early in the rounds, but now it's like every day you're kind of cycling a game. And when it's like the first round, there's always a game on. So like while I'm working on my game, I kind of got like my phone over there, and I just realized like I just stopped working for like 5 minutes at a time. I'm just staring at my phone over there. Eventually I just had to like shut it off and just be like I'm not focusing at this point. But it's so true, because like you'll just, it's so captivating, especially playoff hockey, because it's so fast. That's why I always tell people, like, especially our audience, like they'll joke that like when we talk about sports, it's like we're speaking a different language. If you're ever interested, like I think hockey is the best one to pick up, because it's just that fast paced, like you just, even if you know nothing about sports, you'll be entertained. Like for me, football was a long-term goal, because it was like stop and go. What's pass interference? Like, why can't you go over this line? Why is in college football you could put 1 foot on the ground and that's considered inbounds, but it's got to be 2 in the NFL? Like all these little rules and twists. Basketball sucks, so like you're not going to watch that. Like no, and so on. So yeah, like I recommend to the audience, like play hockey, especially playoff hockey, is a really great time to just start and watch these dudes and like how hard they go. It's unbelievable. That's interesting to hear from you, Ben. But Dagan, my friend. Mr. Yankee, have we dialed it back in the years since then?
I have.
How do we feel about playoff sports? What does it pull out of you? I've given you as much time as I can for you to take your notes.
Man, this is a great topic.
Matty, wait, real quick. I just gotta say, you missed a total opportunity to call him Daddy Yankee, and I just can't stand for this. Awesome. All right, I can't stand for that.
Well, thank you for stepping in and making sure we got that right. I appreciate it, because I miss opportunities like that all the time.
I do too. I do the same exact thing, dude. It's so funny. I think about Colin about when it comes to this a lot, because growing up, I don't know if I explained, in my family, my grandmother, my mom's mom, was the big baseball fan, and she was the jilted Brooklyn Dodgers fan who was heartbroken when the Dodgers left New York for LA. And I guess, don't quote me on this, but I'm thinking it was the 60s sometime, right? When this happened. And she automatically rejected the Dodgers when they moved west and became a huge Mets fan. As a result of it, baseball meant a lot to her. She grew up watching Sandy Koufax pitch, and like she really had a love, like a pure, genuine love for baseball, which was really cute. And you don't always see that in a grandma. And she wasn't like one of those like salt of the earth, really butch grandma. She was very feminine. She loved to shop. She loved to get dressed up, but she loved baseball. She was so cute with it. And so as a result of her fandom of the Mets, starting, I guess, about 10 years before I was born, all my mom's side of the family were Mets fans as a result. And growing up, they tried to groom me as a Mets fan. They didn't try to groom me in general. Don't get nervous. They just tried to groom me as a Mets fan. And I went to dozens of Mets games in Queens and Flushing at Shea Stadium. And I went to a few Yankee games trickled in because the one family member, our Uncle Mike, was a diehard Yankees fan. And my best friend's dad was a huge Yankees fan growing up. My dad was very apathetic about sports. He didn't care. He wasn't a big sports guy. But I had at least my friend John's pop and my uncle who would take me intermittently to a few Yankee games. I went to like maybe 3 Yankee games to like 22, 24 Mets games. But the Yankees just genuinely always felt right to me. Like that's always where my fandom lie. But as a teenager, I largely tuned out. I loved baseball as a kid. I played Little League all the way up through early in high school. And then as a teenager, when skateboarding came along and girls and other distractions, I kind of tuned out of professional sports altogether. Although I was never really into anything really except baseball. And then I guess late in college, a 10-year-old Colin was really into the Yankees, very much so. I'm not sure I credited him enough with this. And he got me tuned in to probably the 98 or 99 playoff season. I remember that era when it started because it was sort of the outgoing of like iconic ball players like Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill was on the team at that time, Tino Martinez. It was kind of the end of that Yankees era, and Derek Jeter was a brand new rookie, and it was kind of the offing of a whole new generation for the Yankees. And I just got, I guess it was a combination of having time now to tune in post-college-ish, but also for some reason I just got the hook in me. And I became like a really huge daily dialed in game every day, 2 newspapers a day, day and night, Daily News, New York Post, on the train. It got to the point where I was really like super, like Ben, like obsessed. Without, by the way, that invested like Ben without gambling, because you see a lot of this investment due to having money tied up in this stuff, but there was none of that. It was pure just obsession, authentic obsession. And for that decade or so, probably by 2002, 2003, honest to God, I could have been a scout for the New York Yankees. Like it was that crazy. It was like statistics. I went to so many Yankee games, and I lived out here, by the way. So I would get home. I would go to a Yankee game, a 7:05 game. I would shoot into the Bronx from Manhattan where I was working, get home to suburban Philly at like 3 a.m, have to go to work the next day. I went to so many Yankee games in the spring and summertime that it was stupid not to have partial season tickets. Like it was hurting financially. Actually, it was totally dumb. When I wasn't at Yankee games, I would shoot out to Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. Yeah, I'm not sure where their AAA minor league affiliate is now, but they used to be in Wilkes-Barre. I would go see AAA games, especially when somebody was rehabbing. So if Derek Jeter was getting called up from an injury, I would go see him play the minors. And then AA Trenton Thunder, the other Yankees lower minor league affiliate team, is right in Trenton, next to, not far from Princeton, not far from where I live. I was totally invested, and like there was nothing I didn't know. I knew the rotation back to front. I knew the scouts. I knew prospects. I knew people coming in, people coming out, what was going on, hot stove in the off season. It was insane, actually. It was like Ben, I had that FOMO. If I missed a game, it was like I had to at least listen to it on the radio. Like I would call up MLB talk shows and weigh in on topics. Like it was insane, but it was pure enjoyment. I really loved it. And the other thing that makes me laugh about the Yankees and their effect on me is that, and I try to get back to that intermittently. I even tried it again last year and this year, and there's something not hitting like it used to, even just through no lack of effort, there's just some kind of magic. Like it just doesn't incite like it used to, although I'm still, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Yankees fan. I'll always be a Yankees fan. But the other thing that makes me laugh is my lifelong love-hate relationship with this entire city of Boston by the result of just being a Yankees fan. And I say hate because obviously the Red Sox, but I say love because one of my best friends in the world went to BU for his undergrad, and then my brother went to Northeastern. So my ties with Boston were inevitable. I was always there, especially starting in the mid-90s when my friend started going to school there. Now one of my great friends went back for his master's to Harvard recently. An old friend of mine and an old boss of mine is back in Boston. So my ties with that city are inevitable. And I actually really love the city of Boston, but there's just something about the rivalry between the Yankees and the Red Sox, and the Yankees fans and the Red Sox fan, especially during that era where it was so contentious and so heated, that I would see the Gandalf-like figure of my dad losing his temper at Yankees Red Sox games in Yankee Stadium when I would say honestly 40% of the seats were filled with Red Sox fans. And then vice versa in Fenway. If you went to a Yankees Red Sox fan in Boston, it was 40% Yankees fans in the stands. And it got heated. You know, there was fist fights, people getting thrown out constantly, doubled security. It was insane. But I kind of love that. I kind of loved being so invested in it, being embroiled in it, being, you know, taking every breath with every game and every pitch. There was something really special about it. And, you know, I relished, a lot of people would insult us back then. You know, it was the whole thing about the Red Sox with whatever it was, 1912 and all that kind of thing about being the perpetual loser. And then the Yankees thing, as Matty mentioned early on, was like, oh yeah, well, they're just buying their way to success and to victory and everything. I loved that whole evil empire thing. I like a lot of Yankees fans, I enjoyed every bit of that. Like there was a short-lived era. I don't know if a lot of people would remember this because it didn't last long, but the Yankees officially at home games would play the Imperial March when they were announcing the lineup, which what I guess eventually it didn't take too long to get cease and desisted, but they did that for a little while. So they just kind of embraced that whole evil empire thing. I fucking loved it. And there's still something very special to me about Yankees fans. I think a lot of it, the Yankees fans are a little aloof, but I think there's always been that higher class, you know, sort of like Long Island, Hoboken, Southern Connecticut, Greenwich, you know, Upper East Side thing with the Yankees, where it was just, I think in all fairness, it was just a higher class of people, you know, and, you know, it was a very specific look. And I always really, beyond that, I loved everybody in, you know, that were sat right behind the dugout, and I loved everybody in the bleachers. Like the cool thing about the Yankees, I think the Mets too, to some degree, but the Yankees, it was sort of like a microcosm of New York. It was all welcoming. It was every color. It was every creed, every socioeconomic, you know, it was just everybody enjoying the game together. It was like really a melting pot. And I loved, you know, for me, obviously growing up on Long Island, I loved the hometown pride. I loved the pride in your city, the pride in your town. You know, you're kind of standing for the place that you're from. You're flying your colors, you know, which is what I love, not just about being a Yankees fan, but I love about all professional sports. It's like, that's hometown pride. You know what I mean? That's kind of like, that team represents you. That represents your people, the people you come from, the people that you grew up with, the people that raised you, you know, your family to come, all that kind of thing. But I love that hometown pride thing, even when it's not the Yankees and even when it's not New York. Like I'll go to Pittsburgh and see a Pirates game, and I'll see that, you know, that Pirates pride and that Pittsburgh edge. And I get it. Like you grew up here, like this is your team, you know what I mean? You're repping the black and the yellow. And there's something about when I lived in LA, I used to go to Dodgers games and I would get that, you know, like, okay, that pride in LA, and, you know, you wearing the interlocking LA hat and everything, but there's something super cool about cities like Pittsburgh and St. Louis, Detroit, Kansas City, Cincinnati, like the places where you don't typically get a lot of transplants, like it's real genuine hometown pride. There's something super cool about that. Like that's your team, you know, that's your source of pride. So I could go to any of those teams, even when they're not, any of those ballparks, even when they're not playing the Yankees. And I get that, you know what I mean? That's the whole thing. It's like, I guess for me, it feels very American, no matter where you're from. It's like, yeah, that's, you know, you're kind of pulling for your team. This is who represents you. This is who represents you nationally. This is your source of pride. The only other thing about baseball, even though I'm largely tuned out now, is I did get very into basketball recently, which was weird because first of all, I was terrible at playing basketball as a kid. And I never really had any interest in watching basketball. Never really had a team, that whole thing. But my son was really into basketball for a while, although he's kind of gone cold on it. He's kind of become apathetic again. But by proxy of him, he got me into the 76ers a little bit. And now I'm kind of dialed in to watching the Sixers, especially they went out to the Knicks in this playoff round not too long ago, like 2 weeks ago as we're talking about this. But I started to get really into it. And I think there's something there too about just loving Philadelphia so much. Having been here for so long now, having been here for 30 years, it just feels right. Can never be a Phillies fan, right? By proxy of the Yankees. Not a big football guy. So the Eagles are out. Never been a big hockey guy. So the Flyers are out. So it's like, I think it makes sense for me to pull for a Philly team. And it just kind of feels right. I'm just kind of going with it. But like you were saying, Ben, with you now and your hockey, I feel like it's a real sweet spot. Because I'm not too emotionally invested yet. I'm new. I'm a new fan. I'm not like this die-hard fan that's kind of like living and dying with every game. So it feels kind of cool because I can enjoy it without, getting a tumor or, you know what I mean? Like a gallbladder attack or something, getting, have to take antacid and stuff. So that's really cool. And then I live in a really big college basketball area. We have Villanova and Temple and St. Joe's, like top tier college basketball in my area. So that would be really cool if my son and I could bond over that, but I don't know where his head's at with basketball, but I love that other thing of that, the family bond, whether it's bonding with a friend or a sibling or like Micah with her dad, a neighbor, just having somebody to share that excitement and that joy with. I never really, beyond Colin, I never really had that. And it's something I love my dad for so many reasons, but that's something Colin and I talk about a lot, having missed growing up, is that we didn't have that dad that we could bond with or on the TV or in the ballpark with sports, because he just wasn't into it at all. So I like that idea of having that now. So I'm hoping my son gets back into basketball, because then we could root for the Sixers together. Now that would be really fun, and something that I think makes it so cool for people. Like I love Ben ordering 15 pizzas, having a tribe to gather around the screen with, or the projector outside. That's so cool. I could just see like in Pittsburgh getting bundled up under the blankets outside and watching the Steelers on the projector. Like that'd be so, having beer and hot dogs and pizza. Like it just feels so Pittsburgh to me. It feels so provincial, but it also just feels so like American and like something with the family to get. It's like Sunday dinner for Italians, right? It's a reason to gather around on Sunday or whenever the hockey game is, whenever the ball game is, and just do something as a tribe. It's kind of neat. And yeah, man, it's yeah, you know what? I'll tell you though, this one thing that I realized, 76ers games, we went to a game last year. It was the first time I was ever at Wells Fargo Center. And it's beautiful, very expensive, decent seats. I would say like middle tier seats, costly. So I was like, let's try to get to a Villanova game. Dude, it's more, that college basketball ticket is more expensive than a professional basketball and than an NBA ticket, which is insane to me. So I had to figure out this whole strategy. St. Joe's, same thing. I think that the enthusiasm level and the alumni base is so big and they stay here that it's hard to even get, plus the students, it's hard to get a ticket, right? Because the students have lotteries and all that kind of stuff. I figured out it's a lot cheaper to just go to Princeton and watch a Tigers game. It's lower tier basketball, but at least we could watch some college level basketball and not pay $300 a ticket, which is insane. Yeah. You know what I mean? For a family of four to go to a Villanova game costs $1,200. That's insane. Yeah. That's more than a day at Disney World. Yeah. So that's probably a topic for another time. But if you really want to get invested and you want to show up to a couple of these things a year, man, you're going to have to put out some serious scratch. I wonder if that's going to get, that's the cost of everything now, but I wonder if that's going to get even worse before it gets better.
Yeah, there are Ranger tickets like I know it's Madison Square Garden, it's New York, all that fun stuff runs up the cost, but I'm pretty sure like the cheapest ticket you could get for a playoff game right now is like upwards of $900. Like it's, and you think about it, dude, you look on the screen, it's a full crowd. I'm like,
Absolutely.
this money, people are ready and willing to throw it. That's why, you know, what always gets me out of it is like, I'll go to the early round games. Like I've been to a number of hockey playoff games, but I don't go to the later ones because that money on the line is the scariest thing. If I went to like game 1 for the conference finals that the Rangers just played against the Panthers, 3-0 shutout, they never got going. It was miserable to watch. It's like, I would have forked out $1,000 to just watch them get embarrassed, you know? And I don't know if I don't make enough to just be like, yeah, whatever, you know, I'll just go and screw it, you know? That's the thing that always gets me. But then the thing is if they make it all the way, it's like, well, I got to go to a Stanley Cup game. I just have to experience that. But you think if they're pushing 900 now, they got to be doubling that for the Cup.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's time to cash out if you're the Rangers. You know, who knows when we get back here.
Dude, it's that isn't. I mean, you know what? The other thing about sports, I think we mentioned this last time we talked about sports on Constellation, but it definitely occurs to me. It's like the last really pure form of entertainment that's kind of undetermined and unscripted. Like it's always a question mark. It's always a wild card. That's the most exciting thing, is that you really don't know the outcome. TV show, great TV series, a film, even a book, like it's all predetermined. But sports is the last open-ended entertainment, especially if you don't go in for the conspiracy about being controlled by by Vegas and all that kind of thing. Which
refs,
I mean, it might have some kind of bearing on it, but it's definitely not all controlled by gambling, you know? So that's another thing. It's like that. It's that really kind of that gladiator mentality, I guess we all have. Although hopefully we're not trying to see the car burn, or we're not try to see the NASCAR wreck, or the football player get his head lopped off in some kind of plague on a miss or something. But it's that level of excitement of you just don't know. And it's also you versus them. And it doesn't have to be a rivalry like, LA, San Francisco, or Yankees, Red Sox. It could be just your city versus another place, and you want to come out on top, right? When the Pirates play the Phillies, which Pennsylvania city is going to come out on top? It's always that thing of, rooting for the people you're backing versus your friend who might back the other one. And that kind of level of excitement. Yeah, man, it's Colin's going to be sorry to miss this topic. I thought of that as well.
Yeah.
I'd be sorry to miss this one.
Poor sucker.
I mean, what does he have to say about the playoffs anyways, though? I mean, really.
Jets and Islanders, yeah, it's pretty.
That was so little playoff experience, like what? You mentioned, Dagan, though, there's a simplicity to being from Massachusetts because there's only one team for each sport. And you don't choose which baseball team do you like? It's like we have one baseball team, one basketball team. Like it's very easy in that way. And I've always liked that, honestly, because it's like, no, you don't have to pick one. Like it's just you have one of everything. Great. Easy peasy. We don't have to say well, yeah, I'm in this zip code, so I guess I should be one of these fans.
That's a great
it's
point.
like, no, it's easy.
And you
peasy.
guys, not only Massachusetts, you guys have Maine, Vermont, Rhode Island, right?
Yeah.
New Hampshire. That's all Red Sox country and Patriots country and right and Celtics country.
Oh yeah, for the Bruins specifically, when they score a goal on a power play, you have a chance to win ice cream from this company, Giffords of Maine. And I did win it once. You go on their Twitter and you retweet it and they send you a coupon for a free pint of ice cream from Giffords of Maine. But it's like, oh yeah, that's a company in Maine, and they're affiliated with the Bruins. So it's like their fans reach, all the way up there. Obviously, when you're that far north, though, you might even choose whatever team you want, but it's neat that they are still that affiliated with us and that Maine is kind of part of it. But yeah, when I won that free coupon, it was really cool because when you get it in the mail, it just says the mail return address is just Boston Bruins. And I was like, this is it, Dad. They're calling me up to the majors, and then you open it. It's your free ice cream, which I didn't even get to eat because I'm lactose intolerant. So I gave that to my dad as well.
Oh, that's so funny, man. And you guys have that New England fan base, those 14 professional teams, that might have the most reach in the entire country. You got the top half of Connecticut, right? And everybody who moves out of that grows up there and moves away from that part of the world. Probably parts of New York. That's a wide net. That New England sports. That's a scary fan base. I know the Red Sox fans are scary. I never felt comfortable going to. I only went to Fenway twice, and it was both like, it's a little nerve wracking. It's a little white knuckle. It's a little white knuckle ride.
It is, because the thing about Sox fans is that they riot whether they win or lose. Oh, we won, okay, great, we're going to burn down the city. Oh, we lost, great, we're going to burn down the city. Like, Sox fans are out of their fucking minds. And whether they win or lose, Boston is going to just stay home that night. Don't go out. Please stay home and stay safe, because the Sox fans are out. You don't want to get into that.
Yeah, no, I've seen that in action. And you know what the funny thing is? Yankee fans and Red Sox fans have so much in common. They're so similar in so many ways. I just feel like it's this fox and the hound thing. Like, they could be friends, they just never will be, type of thing. It's like, you guys have so much in common. There's nothing like breaking that sort of barrier with a Red Sox fan, which I have in my life. Like, I've been friends and we've had that friendly rivalry with specific Red Sox fans that I knew or that I worked with. But when you could kind of come to terms and just kind of be like, agree to disagree and be friends with the other side, that's fun. That's really fun. Although I've never made a friend at a game in either New York or Boston. Like, that's just not, man, it was so, I bet it's a lot more mellow now, but that era where I was so into it was probably the most intense. For me, obviously, certainly was. But I think in general, that was just a really heated time for that rivalry. And an exciting time for baseball. It was before, games could go 5 hours. It was before they implemented the pitch count. They implemented the pitch count as a direct result of that era, where a game could easily last 5 hours. You know what I mean? There was so much trickery and the double switch and all that kind of stuff. It was a cool time for baseball. Yep. Steroids were still in play.
I went to a Pirates game for my brother-in-law's 40th last month, I think it was, and we played Baltimore, which isn't the point. But even with all the new stuff they've put in to speed up the game within the last couple of years, it still ended up going to, I think, the 11th inning.
Wow!
And it was a great game. The stadium was electric. We had people, like, half the stadium was full of Baltimore fans, which I guess kind of makes sense, because the Baltimore region expands out halfway into Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's not that far. Yeah,
right. But it was crazy, because I remember going to games, a long time ago that maybe ended at the top of the ninth, and they took longer than this game that went the whole way to the bottom.
Isn't that
of the 11th.
funny?
It's crazy.
Yeah. They got that whole thing now with the rhythm. And I think it was a lot of knee jerk. Like, people think it's boring. And a lot of people do think baseball is boring. It's too slow. It's too plodding. Yeah. How can we speed this up and just kind of, the cadence and make it a little more exciting? But that's baseball. It's, if you're not, you're either in for that or you're not, you know. Matty, what do you think, my friend? Are you satisfied?
I feel very satisfied.
You did.
I was surprised how much everyone actually had to say on the matter. So I'm very happy.
It's fun and timely. All right, my friend Ben. Number 3. Batting third today, my friend, of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ben Smith, take it away with your topic.
All right. This is a little off the wall, maybe, but I wanted to talk about loyalty programs. And I just feel, I think one time when I was on, and Micah was on too, her topic, or one of our topic was tipping. And this one's not related to that at all, but it still has to do with, like, stores and online shopping and stuff. And it seems like everywhere you go, whether it is an online store, an in-person store, a grocery store, somewhere you buy clothes, gas station, coffee shop, whatever it is, they all have loyalty programs. And I know, both by, passing observance and reading business stuff, having my own businesses in the past, I know that loyalty programs, the real reason, yes, they want your loyalty, but what they really want is your email address and your phone number. Preferably your email address, because apparently, somehow, even though it's 2024, email is still the best way to sell people stuff. Statistically. Maybe not for me, but statistically. So I want to know if anybody has any loyalty programs that they are enthusiastic about, that they really like, or if they have a strong aversion to loyalty programs in general. Are you the type of person when you go to the store and they say, do you want to sign up for this thing? It's totally free. You say, absolutely not. Or do you have 19 extra cards in your wallet because you sign up for every loyalty card program that's possible? For me personally, pretty much all the gas stations that I frequently use, which for me would be Sheetz and Get Go, those are the two main ones in my area. They have loyalty cards. And of course, they have things, now that every gas station, all the big gas stations are becoming miniature stores inside, you can earn points from buying made to go food or buying a drink or something like that. But really, the benefit for me is they typically offer a discount on your gas if you use your loyalty card. And you also don't have to do the pre-authorization or whatever. I guess not many of us pay for gas with cash anymore, but if you did, you wouldn't have to go in and pay with cash. So typically it's anywhere from 3 to 10 cents off a gallon just by simply scanning that card. I know they're tracking me. I know they're studying my spending habits. I know they have my home address and the make and model of my car, whatever, but I save 3 cents a gallon on my car that already gets 35 miles a gallon, and that's important to me. And then there's other ones like online stuff, specifically with video games. I buy most of my PC games directly from Steam. I'm happy to do that. But I also will go sometimes to, approved websites that certain developers will sell codes to these websites, and then those websites resell them. And they're usually a couple dollars cheaper. Aniba is one that I use a lot, Eneba. And I'm actually...
my friend grinds Aniba.
Yeah. Oh. I'm so enthusiastic about Aniba that I actually signed up to be an affiliate so I could make even more money.
Oh, wow.
With Aniba, most things that you buy on there, you get essentially cash back. So if I buy a $60 game for $58 on Aniba, they'll give me like $5 back to spend on the next game. So generally, I'm saving a decent bit of money on my PC games as far as that goes. So that's one that I'm really enthusiastic about. I'll oftentimes go to Aniba and spend $2 extra than CD keys or Steam, or sometimes I'll pay more than it is on Steam because I know I'm getting, $5 or $7 back. So sometimes I'm genuinely a pretty pessimistic, skeptical guy when it comes to, you're not getting my information. But sometimes there's those programs, those loyalty programs that really appeal to me. Save 3 cents on every gallon of gas. Yeah, I'm in. I'm going to go to your gas station every week anyway. I might as well save the money. I'm going to buy these video games anyway. I might as well save the money. So I don't know. What are you guys most interested in? And I don't really care. I'll just pick Matty to go first.
Sure.
What are you? Are you a loyalty program loyalist, or are you please don't take my information, even though I've had a Gmail account since 2005 person?
Well, when you put it like that, yeah, I wouldn't say I don't sign up because I don't want someone to get my information. Like, I know it's out there. And I live by the code of look, man. As long as you keep your nose clean, you just do the right thing. I got nothing to hide. Go ahead, CIA. Poke through my phone or whatever. It's fine. It's nothing personal.
They don't
do
need
your
your
job.
permission.
Yeah, they don't need my permission. But by all means. So for me, I sign up to less loyalty programs. Number one, I get employees got to hit quotas. I think GameStop ruined some of this for me.
Yeah.
Just the harassment, the trying to sneak it in and add a little extra charge to my deal. I'm like, you rats! You'll just sneak in there and charge me more money because I get it. Your managers are putting pressure on you. I'm not talking to everyone who does this, but I've noticed that really started with GameStop. I was like, I don't like these loyalty programs. You're already taking money from me. You've kind of skewed my approach where it's like, I know how GameStop operates. And when you trade in games, when I used to do that when I was much younger, it's like, I know I'm not getting good offer even with the extra 10% because I'm a pro member. So I think that really skewed my perspective growing up because that was the one thing I really cared about. I loved games. So I would want to sign up to a place that had a great rewards program. I would say over time, what it's become is just stop harassing my email. I'll sign up to your program. It's like, okay, I could get down with 10% off. Yeah, okay. And so I sign up and then I'm like, no, I don't want to sign up for your email program. They do it anyway. And all of a sudden my email's loaded with promotions every day. I wake up, delete all this bullshit. So that's the big part of it for me. I don't have a junk email. It's just, I already managed a couple of emails for all my various channels. So I just don't want to add another one to sign up for stuff for like one-time deals. But I will say I'm a fan of Chewy. I love Chewy. They give a lot of great offers. I got one right here next to me. It says 40% off your first pharmacy auto ship order. Mm-hmm. And so I'm getting Rufus on a Simparica Trio treatment. And
that's what we use.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I'm going to have Chewy auto ship it. Like Chewy's got my business for everything dog related. Wherever I go, I'd say I have more brand loyalty than the program systems loyalty. I don't want to say where, but like one of my local trade shops for gaming has a really good offer where they just give you like 10 10% off on everything and 10% extra on anything you like give to them. Something along those lines where they're already going a little bit below market value for the games they sell there. They sell really high end shit. So I complete pretty niche parts of my collection there, and it's for way cheaper compared to what people put up online. So they have my business. Like I'll always try to fly by when I'm in the area and just see what they've got. Because for me, I'm big on supporting the local shops. Ben, you definitely have me interested in this gas program. I would certainly love to save couple cents on gas every time I pull around. That'd be cool. But yeah, I think I generally avoid loyalty programs. I'll admit I'm a boomer with certain things. Like I just started using Apple Wallet for the first time yesterday. Because I was buying movie tickets to see Furiosa tonight, and it was like Apple Pay. I'm looking at it, I'm like, I like for me, I was the person growing up where when they had the iPods and the phones, and then they made the iPhone and put them together, I was like, that's stupid. Like I already have my music playing device. I have my phone. I don't need to put it. Now I listen to music on my phone all the time. Like it's hard to imagine it without it. So I confess I can be slow on the uptake with certain things here. So maybe I'm missing out on some great loyalty programs here. Cause like I said, I'm just starting to use Apple Pay, and I paid for my tickets. I just double clicked my phone. I was like, hey, that was pretty easy. Shit. Okay. So I can get that with a little extra convenience too. But yeah, I admit I'm slow on the uptake. So I'm not well versed in great loyalty programs. So I don't know if I'm the best person to ask on this, but I have my moments. But thank you, GameStop, for ruining it for me.
When I worked at, there's two things here. One is about Apple Pay, and the other is about GameStop thing. When I worked at a company called Sam Goody, and for those who don't know, it was like almost like an FYE or Suncoast or something like that, where they sold movies and games and stuff like that. We had a program, and we had a free one and a paid one. And I don't remember ever getting pushed super hard. Now, I was also in high school when I worked there, so maybe I had a different standard than some of the full-time employees. But I remember that it was very beneficial for us financially. And I mean, minimum wage was $5.25 an hour. That's what I was making at the time. And probably an extra 50 cents an hour would have changed my world, at the time when I needed a little gas money for school or a date or something. But they pushed them pretty hard. And it was surprising to me, the free one especially. We'd see people who would come in literally every Tuesday or every Friday or whatever it was to get the new games that week, or to get the new CDs, or to get the new movies or whatever. And they'd come in every week and they were like, I don't want to sign up for it. I'm like, but this free one that doesn't cost you anything. All we need is your email address. We'll save you an automatic, I don't remember exactly what it was, but let's say 5%. Saves you an automatic 5%. And every 3 months you get a $15 reward or whatever. So it was like GameStop, but not paid at all. And people would you'd get somebody occasionally, but people would decline it big time. We also had a paid one that actually more people said yes to. Of the people who were already considering it, more people said yes to it because they were like power users. And I assume you made more money off of those people, but it was just crazy that people wouldn't sign up. And then the Sheets and GetGo thing is interesting because they have the free one, which I sign up for, but they also have a credit card that if you get gas with them, it's like an extra 10 cents, so 13 cents. I'm like, I don't need a credit card for Sheets. Like, I know it financially would make sense, but I don't need it. I don't want it. Which probably, now that I'm considering it again, is a stupid idea. But what was the other thing I said? I said them both out loud so I didn't forget them. There were two things.
Apple Pay?
You said
Apple Pay.
Apple.
Yeah.
Right.
This is just to tell you you're not too much of a boomer, although maybe you are because my wife's older than you. But when we went to New York for the live show, I set up Apple Pay. Well, first of all, I set up like the transit thing on my phone so that I could easily hit the subways. And she was like, look, can you do that for me? Because she is not techie at all. was like, okay. And then I went in and I was like, why don't you have Apple Pay set up? And she's like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, you've had an iPhone we've been married almost 13 years. You've had an iPhone the entire time. She's like, I don't know what Apple Pay is. I'm like, okay. So I set up Apple Pay. Then I set up the transit thing. And she goes, how do I use it? Like, you just tap your phone on the thing and you get through. And she's like, oh, can you do that for like, oh, and then we went to a coffee shop and I wasn't getting something or something. And she was like, I don't have my purse. Can I borrow your wallet for a minute? I'm like, just use Apple Pay. She's like, what? And she just taps it. And she's like, she looks at me and it gets like this spark in her eyes. And she's not a spender. She's between the two. We're both pretty frugal, but between the two of us, she's the like, we don't need to spend that. She doesn't ever tell me I can't spend money, but she'll never spend. She won't buy new socks if she needs them sometimes. So she never wears socks either, but that's a different story. Anyway, all that to say, she like looked at me and got this like sparkle in her eyes. And she's like, this is really cool and really dangerous. So you're not that far behind, Matty.
Yeah, because the convenience is scary. I look at Amazon's like a perfect example. How easy it's to order something, add to cart, and if you're on your phone, one swipe, done. Let's say I want to cancel my order or reverse my order or change something. Oh, they make it like 80 hoops to jump through. So I always feel like the convenience is it's a dark hole sucking you in, and it could be dangerous. And so for me, like I'd say I'm pretty frugal too, but Apple Pay, when I did it, I was like, oh man, you can just one tap, don't even think about it. You don't even take out your card and think for a moment like, oh, how much money do I have on this thing? It's just there on my phone.
Yeah. Tap,
done, or double click, done.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Well, speaking of boomers, Dagan, Dagan, where are you at with the loyalty programs? I mean, you're in, Philly suburbs, but now you're working in the city.
Yeah.
So you've probably got a lot more opportunities to see these types of things. And of course, Apple Pay is probably, with using transit, probably a decent part of your life now. How do you feel about loyalty programs in general?
Yeah, man, this is a great one. This is another topic where I'm like, have we never talked about this before? And I'm thinking about all the differences between me and my wife, because she's really kind of cutting edge with all this shit and I can't be bothered. And let me give you a certified boomer anecdote. I just started tapping my credit card instead of putting it in the fucking slot. And I'm so proud of myself. Like this, all I had to do was just the entire time.
Still, like I still like firm press it. Like people, I'll see them like slap it, and that's it. I still like firmly like bend it and lay like the part of the chip flat. So I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like you gotta make sure you really make that contact.
Matty, do you have an RFID safe wallet?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah, what is that?
It's like so people can't like walk by and scan your credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the danger.
I just unlocked a new fear for Matty. I'm sorry. But
holy shit.
Come on, man.
Me too. Well, as Matty's saying that, I'm like, yeah, that is dangerous, because what if it reads the card? You don't want it to be too casual, but I do see now that I'm doing it regularly how easy it is. Like it's just like, to give it a quick flick, as long as it gets within a certain distance, it registers. Right?
Well, that's actually, I'm sorry to interject. That's how I started using Tap to Pay myself recently, was because Publix got the new registers. Now they accept Tap to Pay. I'm standing at the counter with my card in my hand, and it just did it because I was standing close enough.
No
and I was
way.
like,
wow.
But I was also like, oh, because I was afraid to try it because I didn't want to look stupid, like holding my card up and it wasn't going to do anything. So I was like, well, that worked. And now I always use Tap to Pay when I'm at Publix because it's way faster. But I also was like, I was, in proximity to the machine, but I was like, okay, yeah, that's pretty sensitive. All right. They just, that just worked. So you're onto something there. Like I did it completely by accident because I was just standing close enough to the machine that it worked. I didn't actually put my card down on it. I was just standing close enough, I guess.
Holy shit. Yeah. I'm so new to it that I haven't really even thought about it yet. Like, I'm just like, let me do this thing. And it is quicker. It's a lot quicker than putting your card in and waiting for it to say debit, credit, and, to skip the PIN and all that kind of stuff. You know what's funny about this, Ben? The gas thing, I'll talk to that. Helene, I see a lot of this stuff as like the modern version of coupon clipping. And I've always had this honestly, admittedly stupid mindset of like, I can't be bothered with it. I'm not like the super tinfoil hat wearing dude like my dad who like wraps his eBay, his Easy Pass thing up in tinfoil because he just want the government to track him. I'm like, Dad, what do you do? Where are the bodies? Like, what is happening? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing. I don't care if they know where I am or what I drive, but it's what you said. It's that flooding of the email inbox. Like I can't I can't stand any more junk spam emails. So I don't usually go in for this stuff. The one thing I thought about when I saw your email was when my son was growing up, he was so into Lego that I made sure I was in their incentive programs, because Lego, even that, I mean, it's through the roof expensive now, but even, 5-10 years ago, it was pricey.
Yeah.
And just for birthday and Christmas, like if I'm going to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars, let me see what I could get. And you could actually, that was pretty cool, because you could put, incentives towards purchases, or you could get free sets, exclusive sets that were like an extra gift under the tree. So that was kind of neat. But other than those really made easy things, like I don't usually go in for that stuff except for the gas thing. I'll shop. The gas discounts will purposely steer my shopping towards certain stores. Like I love Trader Joe's. I'm a big stan for Trader Joe's. And
Love
Trader
Trader
Joe's, like anything else, I just back them because I like their product. Like I back the brand. That's the incentive. That's it. It's just good shit from top to bottom.
Yeah.
A to Z. But one thing, Trader Joe's is really far from us, like 25 miles away. So that's restrictive. And the other thing is they're not going to give you any incentives. You know what I mean? Not that I know of. So if I shop for us, it's Giant supermarkets and the other one is Wise. If you just shop there and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars a week on your family's groceries and apply that to a gas discount, especially with the price of gas, could be pretty good. Like you could get $1. I think I've gotten as much as like $1.50 a gallon off on gas just due to shopping at that one place. It just makes sense. It's convenient. And my wife drives a big car that's not the best on gas. So I drive a car that I can't put regular in. So it all goes to her and she's happy. And I put my 91 in at Wawa where there's I don't do a discount, which is stupid because my gas is really expensive for the car I drive. And so, but other than that, the incentive program thing, Helene's really into it. Like what's it called where you get cash back on everything, or hypothetically, theoretically, everything you buy? Is it Balta, which is like you buy something and they give you a little money back? She's super into that. But when I come home from shopping and I'm like, do you want the receipt from wherever I just shopped? It could be anywhere. It could be CVS. It could be Giant, whatever. She's like, yeah, let me see, because I'll get cash back on some of that stuff. Let me see if any of this stuff is, it registers for that right now. And then she'll get a few cents back on items. And sometimes it's a few bucks for a round of shopping. But for me, it's like, it's that thing of like clipping coupons. It's like, but she makes time for it and it works for her. The thing that I am noticing, I don't know if you guys notice this too, is I feel like the corporations and the companies are adjusting prices and then saying things are cheaper. Like I'll buy let me give you an example. I buy all my clothes for years now at Banana Republic or J. Crew, right? Like those are the two places I like to shop. It's relatively inexpensive and they make most of the time nice clothes, although J. Crew stuff has been shoddy in quality lately. And so, plaid shirts and just basics and jeans and t-shirts, like that's just the kind of stuff I wear. So it just works. And I feel like they always have 40% off sales. Like there's never not a 40% off sale of everything in the store. But then you go in and you see, because these jeans are $120, you know what I mean? Or $180. So the 40% off. Yeah. So it's just like they say it's 40% off, but they're just pricing accordingly to make sure their profit is in the black. Like that's a weird, but I shop there just because, it's convenient. Every town has one of these stores. It's not super ritzy. It's not super expensive. And you just get the things that you dig, and you don't have to go to the mall because they're usually like near the Trader Joe's in a strip mall, that type of thing. That's really the only thing I'll go in for, but that's, the incentive programs, like Helene does the miles on the credit card, right? Like she'll use that one specific credit card and get the miles, especially because she wants to travel more and more as we get older. And we're doing a lot more traveling and it just makes sense to be sort of structured and disciplined that way and just pay attention to that stuff. I have a credit card that I've been using for so long that has so many reward points, and I'm just too lazy to check what I could get. Like it's so stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It would take me 5 minutes. But I just can't, that whole, like, I can't be bothered thing. I got to like train it out of myself. Helene says I'm entitled. Kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not doing it to act entitled. I feel like I don't have the bandwidth. Like it's not important. But I feel
like one of those things where, for me, I got these weird things in my life where I just put them off because they're almost so easy to do. I'm like, I can bang that out whenever I want, and I just never do. Like I mentioned the pair of pants my mom gave me as hand-me-downs. I was like, okay, cool. I tried on one pair. There's still another pair sitting on the couch upstairs in our living room. And it's been sitting there since I got home. I'm just like, I'll just put those on one of these days and just see how it goes. It might be months. Like it just might sit there for months. But Laylee's the same way, so we'll just have like the occasional random thing lying around the house. It's almost like I'm laying around clues or something like that. But it's like one of those things in Amazon box. It's like, I'll fold that up sometime.
Right.
We'll
it's not going to take me long anyway.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
No. For me, it's different, Matty. It's like, I'm not a good multitasker. I've mentioned that dozens of times. Like I'm just not. And the fact that I would even put that in with multitasking should show you that there's a problem with me and my like mental capacity for juggling things or not juggling things. Mm-hmm. No, for me, it's more of, how do I even describe it? It's like, I think the first thing is it's boring. Like it's not something that's really desirable to me to do. And the second thing is that it's just like, yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like maybe it is what you're saying. Like somebody should get I'll get around to it. But I think a lot of it is that Helene will just do it. You know what I mean? Which is really bad. That's not good it's not good for a marriage. You're just kind of pulling that stuff off. Because if in other words, if it doesn't get done, if I don't do it, then it's not going to get, if her thing is if I don't finally do this thing, this task, right? It's not going to get done. And my thing is like, I retort with like, all right, well, I'm handling all this stuff, that type of thing. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's just like a laziness and it's a bandwidth thing. I don't
like I work hard enough. I do all the major important things. This little whatever, I get to it.
And you enjoy it.
I've earned my
like,
free time.
You like doing that, right? That type of thing. It's not.
It's got a little control in my life somewhere.
Ben, the thing I thought of though? Here's the thing about incentive programs. Like, do you guys know of a real, authentic, like bona fide, worth the cost of admission incentive program? Like, where are the company's balls? Like, let's say this. Let's say Toyota, any car company, insert car company here. Let's say Toyota. Let's say Honda. You buy 3 Hondas. You get the third one. You get the fourth one half price. That's a real incentive program to buy another Honda, right?
I think Subaru.
You're not going to go buy a Toyota on the fourth one because you get half off now.
That's right.
Right.
I think Subaru has some sort of program where if you buy another Subaru, you get maybe you get a free warranty or you get a discount or something. I don't know. Oh,
that's
what it
interesting.
Is. I've never bought a brand new car. I've only ever bought like the car I have now was 6 months old when I bought it, but it was like a dealer loaner. So, it was
pre-owned.
Yeah, it was technically pre-owned, but nobody besides it had 5,000 miles on whatever. Anyway, I've never bought a brand new car, so I've never experienced that.
Smart.
But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody has anything like that they should.
They should.
If I buy 3 cars from you, I get the 4th free. I like that.
Like a real incentive, like something that doesn't just feel like a ploy or a come on or something you kind of know isn't really worth the time you're putting in, like a real legitimate competitive incentive to buy this and not, buy A and not B.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My guess is that I'm probably not spending enough the first time I buy something to have enough of a program to give me the thing the second time for that much cheaper. Yeah. I tend to find the deal. Like, I'll buy a new car or a newer car, but it's not going to be brand new off the lot. And I'll buy, I'll splurge on something, but it's not going to be every week or anything. So,
yeah, that's interesting. And, I should pay more attention. You know what it is, Matty? You know what I think it really is? I think it would be akin to like exercising, like to pay attention to that stuff and give it some bandwidth. We just feel good to be able to be like, all right, I'm paying attention to this. I'm a good consumer. I'm checking out rates or, I'm using the card with the lower rate because they're offering me more incentive and cashback deals or whatever it is. For me, it's just like, I can't I just have this
Yeah.
thing that's just like, I don't know if I remember I didn't grow up poor in any sense of the word, but my parents were very blue collar, right? And I remember them discount shopping. I remember grabbing the no frills stuff in the supermarket. Like I remember them paying attention to money. And when I don't know why it bothered me as a kid. Like I was just like, when I grow up, I'm just going to put the items that I want in the cart, whatever I like. It doesn't matter what brand it is. If I like the taste, if I like the label, like whatever it is, like I'm not going to pay attention to any of that stuff. Life's too short, But I think a lot of it is kind of this thing where it looks, it's not a good look. It's not a good look.
There's no good way out of this.
Well, Micah, I get the feeling you're a little less like that. You're not out but driving fancy cars. They have to put special gas in. You're my fellow Impreza brethren. You're not too busy to clip coupon, too rich to worry about saving money. How do you feel about loyalty programs?
I know Dagan's just dropping all these breadcrumbs of how bougie he is. Like, J. Crew, Banana Republic.
Bougie
and it's
without
like,
any of the money, by the way. Don't have any money for it.
Because I'm still a child who shops at Old Navy, and I'm like, these clothes are fantastic, and I like the way I look. I also primarily I shop at like American Eagle because the clothes still fit me. Being short and lanky, I have trouble finding women's clothes that fit. So I still default to Junior's clothes a lot of the times. I'm still wearing American Eagle, and all those brands. Aeropostale is actually still like one of my favorite stores because all the clothes still fit.
Last time I shopped there was 7th grade.
Wow.
But don't worry, I've upgraded. I shop at Hot Topic now, so.
I just got.
Everyone try not to lose their minds.
Hot Topic had a new Pom Pom Purin collection. He's my favorite Sanrio character.
Cute.
And I had to buy, they had half off of this like sweatshirt that I really liked. So I won't get to wear it for a long time, but I got that.
Their prices
Hot
are just
Topic's
unbeatable. And obviously I'm a sucker for a good graphic tee if my wardrobe today is anything to go by. But their prices are just insane. I'm just like,
are they?
Oh, what? Like buy one, get one free, $20, 2 shirts. Okay, sure.
Are they online?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They have this other
store.
brand, Box Lunch, which is more like anime focused. And
okay.
that's where I get a ton of my shirts now too. Like I'm completely sold out to Hot Topic. Like most of my wardrobe is that. Dry fits, and then I have literally a small sliver in my closet I call my normal people fits, which is like, oh, I'm going to a function where like no one's gonna think this shirt's cool, so I'm gonna wear just like blue, and that'll be it.
Yeah, no, exactly. My going out clothes are much more tame. But when it comes to loyalty programs, in general, I might sign up for them. Like if it's free. Generally, I'll sign up for it, as long as it's totally free. All right. I was indeed a GameStop Power Up Rewards Pro member for many years because I did get the value out of it, though, because it's $15 a year. You get the Game Informer subscription in print, and they would give you that like $5 coupon periodically. And it's like, it does add up to $15 so long as you use the coupon. And I did. I pre-ordered all my games from GameStop for years. I was going to midnight releases. So like, I definitely got the $15 worth. They had me. In general, though, if it's just like a free rewards program, 7-Eleven gas rewards, you sign up for that, you save, it's like 5 cents a gallon every day. And then they just texted me yesterday from Memorial Day weekend, it's 11 cents off a gallon. And all you have to do is just click on the link in your phone. It adds it to your account. Now I'll get 11 cents off. It's just free. So things like that are worth it to me, and I'll do those for places I frequent. Places like American Eagle, for example. As much as I like their clothes, their rewards program is not great. It's like you got to spend hundreds of dollars to get like $5 back.
Oh.
So I never actually get anything from their loyalty program. I shop when their stuff is on sale, so I'm not spending the big bucks on their clothes anyways. Places like that, I don't really get anything out of the loyalty program. The biggest one, though, is this store called Ulta, which is like cosmetics, skincare, hair care. And I just buy pretty much all my stuff there because their rewards program is just $1 off coupons. So you earn 100 points, that's $1 off. You save those up. You can just save up however many dollars off you want. Like it's unlimited. And that is worth it to me because I'm not going out of my way to shop there. It's like they just sell everything and for generally the best prices. Sure, I could buy my shampoo at Target, but if it's either the same price or cheaper at Ulta, and at Ulta I get the points. So I do, for the most part, buy all my skincare, hair care, makeup at that one store, so long as they have the brands I want and everything. And that one is worth it. Like, it's totally free. You just end up earning coupons over time. The points don't expire. It's like, I think you have to have like not make a purchase for a whole year for your points to expire.
Okay.
For that store where I'm buying like my face wash, body wash, that type of stuff, I'm definitely making more than one purchase a year. So you don't have to worry about the points expiring. Because that always frustrates me. I actually just got an email from Bath and Body Works. I love their candles. But I just got an email from them and it's like, oh, you haven't shopped with us in 6 months. Your points are expiring soon. And it's because I shop there once a year, basically, for the big candle sale. They have the 3-wick candles for like $10 each. And I buy all my candles and then I don't go back for another year.
Right.
So their loyalty program is useless to me because I never spend as much money as they require within a year to just like earn the coupon. So for the most part, I don't get a lot out of these. But for the few like 7-Eleven rewards or Ulta, Publix grocery store, their loyalty program, it's not as good as it used to be. You used to get like 3% back. So like every $100 you spent, you'd get a $3 coupon. They got rid of that. It was probably costing them too much.
That sucks.
So they got rid of that. Now they just periodically give you a $3 off coupon, like in the app, and you just click, add to cart and you got it.
That's cool.
But
I love that supermarket, Micah. I wish we had those here.
Great.
I love that place. That's the
It's
nicest
so
supermarket.
good. No, I really like it. They give you free cake on your birthday if you're in the loyalty program. And so that's worth it for me. Every year on my birthday, I get my free cake. Because Colin doesn't eat desserts really. So it's like, I'm not going to bake myself a cake. No one else is going to bake me one. And so I get this free cake on my birthday from Publix, and it's fantastic. And they're really pushing it now because clearly not a lot of people have signed up. And it's like, I'm at checkout and they're trying to sell it to people. And that's always the last thing they say is, and you get a free cake on your birthday. And then the people will be like, oh, well, all right. Like that's the one that sells them on it, right?
Sure.
It's like, oh, what do I care about getting a $3 off coupon every couple months? Because like $3, come on. It already was kind of a bullshit reward. And now that they took it away and this is like random. But the free cake on your birthday, that's a good reward. That one I always take advantage of.
I like that.
And various ones like I was a fanatic for signing up for birthday rewards from like Red Robin and those type of places where it's like free burger on your birthday. I don't live near one anymore though, so I don't get to go. I was always on the lookout for those from restaurants where it's like, okay, Friendly's free Sunday on your birthday or like DQ free Blizzard. And I'd make a day of it. Because all these restaurants would be at the mall. So I'd go to Red Robin and get my free burger. And then I'd go to the Dairy Queen and get my free Blizzard afterwards, right? And I try to make the most of those birthday coupons. But these days, I'm not really such a sucker for those anymore. I don't live near most of the restaurants I had previously signed up for. But that was the last one was the restaurants that I could think of like, I definitely used to be into those for sure. And trying to get as much free food on my birthday as I could manage.
That's so smart. Starbucks gives you a free drink on your birthday, right?
Oh, yeah. Starbucks rewards. I don't go to Starbucks unless I have a gift card. I like it just fine. It's just so expensive. So every Christmas, Betty Ann, my mother-in-law, gives us a gift card to Starbucks and I will use it and I will enjoy it. But once that runs out, I'm not going again until next Christmas. And so I never sign up for like the Starbucks star rewards or whatever, because it's like, I'm only coming here until this $25 gift card runs out and then I'm gone and you won't see me again for a year. I
don't know the ins and outs of their rewards program, but Laylee loves Starbucks and they have like, if you order through their app, there's special deals. Like she's in the cut on that shit, man. Like, she is just, she just knows like she picks up her free drinks with the birthday one. Immediately a light switch flipped. I'm like, oh yeah, like went and got her that for the other day. Like,
yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
It's a $9 drink or something. My girls, but my daughter and my wife with the Starbucks, it's like,
it's an addiction,
we should buy
man.
stock. It's insane. I'm like, why? It's not even that good. I don't even think Starbucks is that good, but a lot of people, like I always explain, my dad was like an early adopter of Starbucks. Like there was one on Long Island on the North Shore next to a skate shop. So my dad very suspiciously would come to me like a Friday afternoon, like, hey, want to go over to the skate shop? 30 miles away. He wanted to get Starbucks, like he was like the pioneer, but people are obsessed, Ben, did you, or maybe any of you guys, there's the one thing that pops up once in a while. It drives me nuts. Like a real incentive will come in, like a coupon will get mailed or emailed, and it'll be like Giant Supermarket. It'll be like $50 off your shopping cart of $100, like a real incentive to go shopping. But it's like Wednesday, May 15th between 7:15 and 7:20. Like, it's like ridiculous. Like, there's no way I'm going to make it there in that short of a window.
Yeah.
They pick the most inopportune. They know when you go in, it's all very strategic. Like the amount you're saving versus the amount you're spending. They know you're going to save more. Like, it's all orchestrated. It's very, I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but the whole thing is like that. But that incentive, I think Lowe's and Home Depot sends them out. It's like the short window of time.
Yeah.
And you just know they're going to get you anyway, even if you do go in, which you're not, because you're never going to make it.
Right.
The
thing that I find on a lot of those offers is like, I'm just going to use Papa John's as an example. If I get Papa John's, I got a family of 4. My wife is about 2 inches around and can eat about 4 times the amount of food I can. And pizza is her favorite food. So if we get pizza, it's got to be cheap pizza. It's got to be like Little Caesars or something that's cheap. But occasionally I'm like, I want Papa John's. If we're getting pizza, I want Papa John's. But I only get Papa John's when I have like a special offer or a code or something, to get it. But a lot of times they'll be like, hey, on this day, buy 2 pizzas, get 2 pizzas free. And I'm like, wow, okay, these pizzas in the app right now are only $11. That's pretty, $22 for 4 pizzas. That's
not
crazy.
Bad, yeah.
But the offer is actually buy 2 pizzas at regular menu price, get 2 free. Regular menu price is double what I would normally pay for a pizza anyway, because I never pay full price for, like, if I go out to eat, I'm only really able to do that usually if I can find a deal, unless it's just Emily and I. So yeah, a lot of those offers, they get you. They screw around, and you're really paying as much as you would be paying normally for the same amount of whatever it is. One of the programs that I used to use when I traveled for work a lot, I had the Delta credit card, which was like $79 a year. You earned, extra miles, which it was worth it for me because work was paying for me to travel all the time. So I actually ended up between that Delta card that I had and one other card, most of our honeymoon was free for travel, at least. It was really nice. But then they would also give you like a companion ticket for anywhere in the world for $99 as long as you bought the other ticket.
Wow.
But at one point, they took that benefit away from the credit card. I was like, well, I don't really want this credit card anymore. Like, I'll just let it lapse or whatever. Because that was the main reason I had it, is for those benefits. And then like 6 months later, they sent me another offer that was the same exact thing, literally the exact same card, but now the card costs $229 a year. Shit. And I was like, and they were like, do you want to upgrade to this? And I was like, no, like, it's the same thing. But anyway, that kind of thing, like, I'm not somebody who just wants to sign up for credit cards all the time, but like my Amazon card, I use my Amazon card for almost everything because I get Amazon points and I shop on Amazon quite a bit. Like there's been times where I've like needed something, maybe not needed is the bad word, but wanted something. And I'll like go to Walmart to look at it, let's say, and I see it at Walmart and it's $20, whatever. I go and I look on my phone on Amazon, it's also $20. But on Amazon, I'm getting cash back because of my credit card, which I pay off every month anyway. It's not a big deal. So I'll literally be looking at it, holding it in my hand at the store. And because of that loyalty thing in my head and the cash back, I'll just order it on Amazon and get it in tomorrow instead.
So that's how you're going to get your comfort stretch jeans from Izod, yeah?
There you go.
Yeah, probably.
No Walmart here.
If they are, yeah, absolutely. If they're on Amazon, that seems like a good idea.
That makes sense.
But I'm not somebody who signs up. Like, I'm a little more like Matty, where I don't sign up for a ton of stuff. But the things I use all the time, the sites I use, the stores I go to, the gas stations I have to hit, If they've got something that's going to save me money for no effort on my part, yeah, I'll do it. But I know some people who are just strongly opposed.
What? Sometimes I wish that there was a loyalty program for certain things, like because the things I buy a lot, like charcoal, and I'm like, if there was a Kingsford club of some kind, if there was like a charcoal club I could sign up for, where I got points for this, like that'd be a loyalty club I sign up for like in a heartbeat. Because what Dagan mentioned with those like receipt reward apps, like Fetch is what Blue Buffalo dog food used to have their own loyalty program, and you just had the app and it just tracked, like you purchase something, you scan the barcode and you'd earn coupons, or you could earn like free dog food. They switched to this thing called Fetch, which is one of those things where you buy the food at the store, take a picture of your receipt, and potentially earn rewards. Right. I hate those.
Yeah.
I never do any of those. That's my limit. Like I'll do coupons, I'll do a lot of those things, but those are my limit. Like, we have to take a picture of the receipt and do all that. That's where I'm out.
That's too much work.
And right. And they switched over to that. And so now I'm just like, well, right. And it's like half the time I order the dog food on Chewy anyways. Like, so it's like, I don't even know if they qualify for these rewards programs. Right. But there are so many times when I think, man, I wish this thing did have a rewards program, because I'd be all over that with, the amount of whatever I buy, the amount of rice I buy. If there was some sort of rice rewards program, be all over that too.
And what is that? Is that the company just saying, look, we're solvent, like we don't need your money, like don't buy it, that type of thing? Like, you ever see, Kyle and I talk about this a lot because we're stands for Boar's Head, but Boar's Head meats, Boar's Head cold cuts, right? Top of the line. Publix is the only supermarket that carries Boar's Head down there, I think. In Pennsylvania, it's giant. But they're a company that is never going to be on sale, and they'll say that. You know what I mean? I think it's in their slogan. It's like compromise elsewhere or something. Like, so there's that thing of like, that's so not intense. Only is that amazing that that's the nature of the company, but that they sell themselves that way. Yeah. It's super. You know what? Helene and I, years ago, the first time we went to Charleston, South Carolina, we were so excited to finally go. We knew it was a great food town, and it was. Like, we both love to eat, and the restaurants there are amazing. So there was one restaurant, we were spending so much money. This was probably like 15 years ago. It was very expensive, but we enjoyed it. But there was one restaurant, a very pricey place that we wanted to go for dinner. And we said, all right, we're spending all this money. Let's go. But we couldn't get in to this place. It was booked. And Helene is a planner. So going down, she tried to make all the, the restaurant reservations well in advance. Still couldn't get into this place. Get to the hotel. There's a guy pitching a seminar for timeshares. If you sat through this video and sat through the whole spiel, they would give you $100 gift card to this restaurant, which means once they give it to you, you use it, you have to get in. It was like admittance to the restaurant and $100 off, whatever it was. So like, oh shit, let's do it, because we're never getting in there any other way. Sat through this thing, dude. We never experienced this before. You see it on movies and stuff. You think about movies like Glengarry Glen Ross or something. Like, these guys were militant. Like, this was a hard sales pitch. Like, it was a video and a seminar and like a hard sell and one-on-one. And we were trapped in like the ballroom of this hotel with these people for like rabid predators for hours to get this thing. Like, we had to be so sort of no nonsense about, no, we're not signing anything. We don't want to see anything else. We don't want to give you our information. We don't want to give you our email. This whole thing. Anyway, we went through this huge rigmarole, all this red tape and bureaucracy. We finally got this gift card. But it wasn't worth it. Like, it was the most insane used car salesman shit that I've ever seen. Like, these guys were absolutely, like, we weren't the only couple there. There was a bunch of couples there, and they were selling timeshares in downtown Charleston. Is very expensive. I mean, you might as well be in New York. You might as well be in San Francisco. It's like this anomaly in the heart of the South where it's like, where am I right now? Like, why is the cost of living so high here? And then you go outside and it's like, the South, but Charleston's pricey. So they were selling these at the time like $750,000 dollar condos that we still couldn't afford anything like that, and we had no intention of moving down south then, even though now we think about it. But that was one incentive where it was like, yes, we did get our just desserts, but it was just like not worth it, not even a little bit. I would never put myself through. I didn't think we were going to get out of there without like giving these guys, a down payment on something. Like it was that bad.
I have a friend who, when he went to Disney with his family, he intentionally like sought out one of those because that was the only way they could really afford, 3 days in the park for 5 people or whatever it was. And he literally, like, he knew what to expect because he had known somebody who did them before. He pulled up his taxes on his phone and showed them to them, and they were like, all right, you can go. Here's your tickets. Like, he's like, we literally can't afford it, and we're not going to. Because they'll try to get you with, we can bring it down to this much and do it this way. And he's like, look, here's how much I make. I can't do it. I literally cannot afford it. And they were like, okay, here's your tickets. Like, it's got right out of there.
Can you imagine, dude? Because they had to, like, think about the thing I sat through in South Carolina, right? They had to purchase those gift cards from the restaurant. They have to make their money back, right?
Yeah.
And you know what this is a topic for another time, I guess, really, all in all. But there was a couple of couples there in retrospect that were clearly planted as well. Like part of the whole thing, like acting super enthusiastic. Oh my God, that's a great deal. Like put us down for that. Like the whole thing was like this very orchestrated, it was like seeing those guys doing the betting on the street with the coconut shells. Like which thing is it? It was like that whole thing, only corporate. And, like, oh man, it was, and to this day, I'm not even sure if it was a scam or not. I mean, it's a scam in some way, right?
Yeah, they're probably legit. They're just, they're legitimately giving you the thing you buy. They're just charging you 700 times as much as you can get it elsewhere and pressuring you into it. Yeah, I think they're usually legit. But
yeah, don't do it. For Ben's friend and for me, our experience in Charleston, don't do it. Just spend the money. Put it on a credit card or don't eat at the restaurant if it's too expensive for you. Well, what do you think, Ben? Are you satisfied, my friend?
I'm good to go. Yeah.
All right, my friends. Listen, it's getting late. Embarking on this holiday weekend. Let's sunset it with my little topic here. Now, Ben and I were just saying in between, about halfway in, I wasn't sure if this topic would be confusing and if this is like a very Dagan-centric topic. But I pitched this topic once before and then ended up sitting out the show. So interestingly enough, Matty was on that show where I couldn't do it. So what I was pitching you guys was basically this: cool names of stuff. Let me explain myself. I have this weird fixation, this weird obsession with the names of things, like the names of companies, the names of products, the names of clothing lines, YouTube channels. I guess band names certainly fall into this. Album titles. I think you could the titles of movies and books and just cool names of stuff. I have this weird fixation / obsession with naming things. And I think it became, I think I've had it for a long time since I was a teenager, but it came to my attention. I worked with a guy, this was probably like 10 years ago, at the animation studio I was with at the time. And this guy was like, dude, you're a marketing person in an animator's clothing. Like you just like the marketing aspect of coming up with things, pitching things, coming up with the name of stuff, brainstorming. And I was like, shit, I really do enjoy that. And at the time, at the place I was working, I was pitching them a lot of content because they were just starting up their sort of digital arm, their YouTube entity. So I was pitching them like spin-off shows and all these things. And I got hooked up with the marketing department there just to brainstorm whatever they were working on, collabs to do certain merchandise with certain companies or spin-offs, or, if they were doing like a book or whatever they were doing, I would get called into these brainstorming meetings to come up with ideas and all that kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, I just really like something speaks to me about a cool name. It could be a video, especially for this group, could be the name of a video game or the name of a video game developer. So I'll tell you what always comes down to for me. There's a skateboarding brand that's been around for a long time now, like over 20 years, that I think has the coolest name ever. And it's called Antihero. And when Antihero skateboards first came out, I was like, holy shit, that is the fucking coolest name for a company. And then their whole image is very, like, speaks to that. Very punk rock, very DIY, you know, drinking beers in the parking lot, little bad boy, little punk rock, that whole thing. Very Portland, very NorCal type vibes. And then I was like, wow, it's so cool when they come up with a cool name for something. It's beyond just a cool sounding name. It's really the banner for what that thing is. I think of Antihero. For me, I think in the 80s, probably the first skateboard company I thought was a really cool name was Santa Monica Airlines, which was the name of a skateboard company in the 80s when vert skating and ramps and launch ramps were a big thing. So the whole thing with getting air, and their whole thing was Santa Monica Airlines with like this silhouette of a plane that just looked like it could have been a real airline thing. And I was like, wow, that's so clever for a skateboarding company to call something airlines. And also something about it where it's like a little bit misleading. Like it's a skateboard company, but they call it Santa Monica Airlines. The other big one, this is a really random one, but I think this will speak to my point. I love titles that sound cool, the name of stuff that sounds cool. And you could think of like your favorite band or your favorite album title or a clothing brand that you're like, oh, that's a badass name. There was a really random video game. I never played it. Probably came out in like 2015. It was like a tactical espionage game. And the whole thing was about stealth. And it was called Invisible Ink, INC. And I was like, that is the fucking coolest name for this game. Like just calling that whole thing of like a clever name. I have this weird thing. Again, I think it's a me thing. I think it's a me problem. I'll come up with I tweet about this from time to time. I'll come up with a YouTube name for a non-existing YouTube channel about a hobby I have nothing to do with. I have lists of these things. I think I did it while I was just talking to you guys before. You know, I'm like, oh, what if I had a YouTube channel and I fixed vintage toys? Oh, plastic surgeon. That would be fucking amazing. Like, this is what I do. I do this all the time, like in my spare time. It's a really weird thing. And I think it's just really, for me, exercising that marketing component of what I don't do for a living, but probably should have done. You know, where it's just like, I love to sit around all day and think of ideas. And at the top of that, you know, any idea is what to call that thing. The other weird thing, though, it's like me with tattoos. I love them, but I won't get them because I'm going to get tired of it in a week. And I think that's why it's one of the reasons that I won't start a YouTube channel on my own, because I know I'm not going to like the name of it and I'm going to want to change it a million times. So you guys, I'm looking at 3 people that could give me advice about that. Yeah.
Name it about yourself, because you never get tired of yourself.
I don't know.
That's not true, Matty.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I get sick of myself all the time.
With Tim Dillon again, right? He calls his podcast the Tim Dillon Show. And I love it. I'm not critical of it, but if I called something the Dagan Moriarty Show, I would get tired of it too fast.
Oh yeah, not like that. I guess not to sound egotistical. Like I like Mr. Matty Plays, because I was just like, what do? I play games. So it's just like Mr. Matty Plays.
And you still like it. You're still comfortable with it.
Yeah. I had my trials though. Like I did, channel still up like G27 status. I was just like, what the fuck does that mean? Well, actually, it's a reference to my first ever YouTube channel, Glitcher27. What does that mean? I made a Call of Duty glitch videos. And 27 has no significance to me. So now it kind of does, because it's like starting days. But now I'm so detached from all of that. But yeah, that's what I always told people when I gave advice for like YouTube channels and stuff. I was like, connect it to your name, like connect it to you. The second you connect it to like a particular game or genre, you're immediately in a hole. Like immediately. But there's no limit to you. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and it would always fit, at least. You know,
right. Anything Dagan does is interesting, right? So
that's
Dagan
the
Moriarty
channel.
Show is born.
Dagan does. That's the whole channel.
Yeah.
Not bad. It's got the alliteration, right? It's got the.
We know the Moriartys love alliterations. Remember, that was a rule with Defining Do. Colin's like, we need DD or something like that if we're going to do a D name.
Right. Literally, while we were talking about sports, I was like, what if this is where my mind goes, guys. This is a sickness. I was like, what if there was a guy or a girl living in a really nice, agreeable climate, let's say Florida, that just had a podcast on all the local professional sports.
Oh yeah.
Oh, fair weather fan. It's like, this is what I do all day long. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not making any money off it. It's a waste of time. But this is like, this is when Colin's like, name a podcast. We came up with Punching Up. It's like, I'm a pig in shit. Like, I'm just like nonstop, hundreds of things, and seriously, 99% of them are terrible, but I love doing it. I just love to. So does this make sense? Now I could read you. You guys see my email. That's basically the long or short of it. I said, the names of books, movies, products, car models is a good one. Podcasts, clothing brands, items you would see in a supermarket. Who's the lucky bastard that gets to sit around all day and name fighter jets and tanks? Colin and I talk about that all the time. Like, the military has marketing people. They called that an F-22 Raptor. Like, somebody came up with that. It sounds badass. It sounds threatening and deadly. So let me pass it over to you guys. Micah, I'll go ladies first on this for you. Does this topic, this is one of those things, we've been doing Constellation for over a year. First of all, I want to make sure this topic makes sense to people. And it's not just a weird Dagan hang up. And if you guys are actually have answers, it'll be my only confirmation. So this is a big risk for me. Micah, what do you think?
So this was one of those questions that it's like asking someone what's your favorite movie, and your mind just blanks and you can't remember anything you've ever enjoyed in your life, right? But a couple stood out. The other thing is that I'm a little stupid. All right, here's an example of how I analyze names, which in that I don't. I lived my entire life not thinking about Payless shoes, that it was Payless shoes, right? You're paying less for your shoes. I was like 23 and I was like, holy shit, it's Payless. But here, part of that is the accent. Back home, it's Payless.
Oh.
You're not saying Payless shoes. Everyone's saying going to Payless. Right? Like, so part of it was the accent. I'm going to blame it on that.
That's not your.
But the other half is that I saw that sign a million times. I went to Payless shoes many times as a youth, as a family on a budget, needed shoes. And I never even thought what the fuck it meant until I was an adult. So I'm not the best person for this, but I have a couple. One of them, this is a makeup brand. So you guys may not have heard of it. It's called Urban Decay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
What stood out to me about that was because I own some of their cosmetics. Colin sees it one day on the counter and he's like, Urban Decay. He's like, that's way too cool of a name to waste on a makeup company. And I was like, this is one of the biggest brands in the world, like of prestige cosmetics. Like, this is a huge brand. It's definitely not wasted on them, I'll tell you that. But he was like, no. That name's way too cool to just be for makeup, right? So that was the first one I thought of.
I
only
love that
because
one, Micah. That is a great answer. And that's a great Colin anecdote too. And so Colin.
Yeah.
It's a great name.
Right. Like, it is a really cool brand. There you have, they're iconic in the makeup world. If you have a woman in your house who wears makeup, go see if she has any of this stuff and you'll realize, oh my God, yeah, she probably owns a ton of it, right? That was the first thing I thought of. The second one is very random, but the band In Excess, which I always thought was a wicked cool name, even like when I was a kid. Can I name one of their songs? No, I'm not a fan. I'm not pretending to be a fan, but that's a fucking cool name. All right. In Excess.
You mean
it's
Inxes?
awesome. Like, that name is awesome. It just works, right? Like, that's so cool. That's one that I always was like, I'm not even familiar with their music, who they are, but that's a cool band name. All right. That's a really cool band
I'm
name.
so proud of you right now, Micah, because that band is one of my favorites. Predates you. R.I.P. Michael Hutchins. He died years ago. And,
he's dead?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
That's why that band is, I don't know if they go on without him, but he was like the front man, the consummate front man. Like, there's really no In Excess without him. Yeah. He died many years ago.
Oh,
Proud of you.
bummer.
Proud of you, kid.
Well, I never knew him. So R.I.P. But yeah, so that one popped into my head. But that's I'm just bad at this because much like Payless shoes, it's like, oh, Stop and Shop grocery store, and you say it so fast it doesn't even sound like 2 words, and it's like, wait, Stop and Shop, there has to be stay a while, browse, like, things.
Right.
But then some of them are nonsensical, right? Big Y. The fuck is Big Y? What the hell does that mean? It's a grocery store for people who aren't from that area. What's the Y? What is it? Like, what the hell is Big Y? Some brand names are so dumb that you get used to ignoring them. Michael's Arts and Crafts. Who's Michael? Who's Michael? Who am I buying this from? Joanne Fabrics. Who's Joanne? I am in the mode of most brand names are so not cool that you would just ignore them and you don't even really think about it. Bath and Body Works. It's obvious, all right? They're selling bath stuff. Like, it's just, some of them are so on the nose or so obvious or nonsensical, like Big Y. I don't know what the hell a Big Y is. But it's things like that you're just like, okay. And you kind of just ignore them. The last one that I had, though, was just the Witcher franchise in general. Mostly because when I play the game, I like to say, let's get witchin', or same when I, read the books. I just like saying Witcher or witchin'. I enjoy that very much. But that was the last, like, contemporary one that I could think of like, this is cool. Like, this sounds cool. Like, my sister's like, oh, what are you reading? It's like, it's The Witcher. Like, that was the last one that I had. I was like, this is cool. This is neat. I want to tell people about it. But otherwise, I am looking around my office now, and I'm like, I have things covered in words, and I'm like, none of these are cool, none of these are neat. But that's what I came up with.
I love it
when you sent us this email. That's
thank
what
God.
I got.
The Urban Decay one was good because I think of like cosmetics or perfumes, like there's all the old hackneyed Obsession and Eternity. Helene wears a fragrance that's called, is it called Jamie got a gun? Jamie got a gun or something. I was like, that's how you name something. That's a good name. You know what I mean? It's unexpected, but you raise a good point too, Micah. Like, from a corporate perspective, sometimes you got to name something just to talk down to your audience. You got to dumb it up, cast a wide net, make it easily accessible, like Walmart, right? Like, they knew what they were doing with Walmart. You can't get too heady, can't get too cerebral, but it's those, and it's interesting because no matter what your tactic is, it all starts with the name, and you don't want it to be ironic. You want it to be easily identifiable as a thing. Bath and Body Works, it is what it is. It says what it is right in the title. It's fascinating to me. I think it all does come down to marketing and advertising with me, and my weird obsession with not going into that career when I probably should have. It comes up a lot in conversation. So it's cathartic for me in some sense. I could be Don Draper right now when I didn't go that direction. Well, I wouldn't be that unsavory, but I would be.
You wouldn't be cheating on your wife left and right, and
not
such
left and
things.
right. Just
the other
left.
point though that you make is some of these brands that are like acronyms to the point that you forget what it is, like DSW shoe store, and it stands for Designer Shoe Warehouse.
I never knew that.
I had no idea.
Right.
Wow.
That's the thing. It's like they're hot. They're, it's casually saying that, yeah, warehouse, it's, good prices, blah, blah, blah. But on the surface, it's like, you're not saying pay less, you're not being as obvious with it. Or something like QVC, which I love. I love my QVC. QVC stands for quality, value, convenience. But most people just know it as QVC.
I never knew that either.
So there's a danger in a way, because like their name is quality, value, convenience, but you shop there for years and you might not even know that's what it stands for. It's like their message is almost lost because they've acronymed it. That's another facet of this, whereas HSN is just Home Shopping Network, and then you know exactly what it is,
like
right?
HBO.
They're not trying to sell you values in that. Oh, yeah, HBO is one that I didn't know what that meant actually till I was an adult, because we never had the channel when I was a kid. And Colin was like home box office. I was like,
Right.
That's what it means? But I had no idea. I never had that channel when I was a youth. And so, not that I would have been allowed to watch anything on it anyways, but it was just like, oh, that makes sense now. But yeah, totally lost on me. Some of these acronyms are catchy, but the meaning ends up getting lost if people just don't know it or don't think about it.
Yeah, there's probably a lot. HBO used to brand themselves as home box office in the 80s. So that's how I knew that. What about I wasn't that long ago. It was probably like 15 years ago. I found out BMW stands for Bavarian Motor Works. I was like, wait, what? But it
I
doesn't.
didn't
It's
know
actually
that.
something else in German. That's just the closest English translation to it. But what about H&M in that clothing store for kids in the mall? What does that stand for? There's like a lot of these.
I don't know.
Right? TD Bank. My mind was blown last week. We did an advertising. They were advertising for something I was working on. So we had to embed their logo in the piece. And I found out it stands for Toronto Dominion or something. And I was like,
Really?
wait, what? That's a Canadian bank? Like my mind was like blown. I didn't know that because they never say it. You know, it's never anywhere. So yeah, that might be, God, you're giving me some other advertising topics for future, Micah. But Ben, what do you think, my friend?
I was just going to say another example there is, I think the YMCA, it stands for Young Men's Christian Association. Everybody then knew it as YMCA. And now I think they've just branded themselves as the Y.
Yes.
So it's gone through multiple iterations there. Yeah.
When the Village people came up with that.
Yeah.
When
Whenever
they
they
invented
created
that
it.
in the 70s.
That's right. Okay, so I as we were talking here, you said something about music, and it got me thinking, and I'm sure some of you guys will remember in the early 2000s, there was a large trend of like emo scene bands making songs with titles that were abhorrently long and usually more humorous than the songs themselves and totally about something different. So I just wrote down quickly in Notepad here a bunch of my ones that I remember, and I'm pretty sure I got all these bands right.
Okay.
But I just think that it was a clever time. Now we just have songs with like one-word titles, and maybe that's for the best. But one of my favorites, there's a band called Chiodos. They had a song that was called "I Never Said I Was Powerful, I Said I Was a Wizard." Hawthorne Heights, band, but they had a song called
Don't dunk on Hawthorne Heights, Ben. Not in my presence.
I have seen Hawthorne Heights probably a dozen times, but I just never really loved them. They were like always with somebody else I was seeing. Apparently hoverboards don't work on water. Paramore, the all-time classic. For a pessimist, I'm pretty optimistic. Dance Gavin Dance had a song called Turn Off the Lights, I'm Watching Back to the Future.
So good.
Under Oath, which Dustin and I are going to see them this summer. They're coming back for another 20-year reunion, which is wild.
Wow.
Of one of their first albums, the first mainstream albums. I've got 10 friends and a crowbar that says you ain't gonna do jack.
Wow.
He Is Legend, a little bit more hardcore, says either they decorated for Christmas early or they're all dead. Takes a minute to sink in. I don't think that song had anything to do with either of those things, but a couple more. From First to Last had a song called I Liked You Better Before You Were Naked on the Internet.
Wow.
Okay. I don't know if that goes over as well now as it used to, but
These are amazing.
there was one more. The band The Devil Wears Prada. One of my favorite songs of theirs also had one of my favorite titles that was Dogs Can Grow Hair All Over. And I remember that sparking like a very spirited debate amongst me and my friends about can they actually grow hair all over. And then I had a band in high school and college, and we went to a show from a band called Sullivan, which was actually the drummer was the brother of the lead singer of Under Oath. It's all connected. But anyway, and he leans down to this girl in the front row. And there's two girls. There's young ladies, whatever. And they like couldn't speak independently. They were like, he's like, "What's your name?" He was like going to sing the song to her or something. And instead of saying like their own name, they said Carol and Leanne or something like that.
Okay.
Because they were talking for both of them.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Shut up, Carol and Leanne." Like, Carolyn, Leanne. And I don't know why, but that just was funny. So we named one of our songs "Shut Up, Carol and Leanne." So I'm kind of with Micah where I'm maybe some of them I'm not clever to understand, like the brand names. And also I think puns are the lowest form of humor and should be abolished. So no. I hate puns.
No, Ben, don't say that.
Well, I already said it.
No, when we were in New York, I saw a bike messenger, all right?
Uh-huh.
And I said to Colin, look, he's peddling his wares.
Yeah.
And Colin didn't think it was funny at all, but I texted Holly
Yeah.
because she's the pun master and
Yeah.
she loved it.
I
She loved it.
I have had this conversation with Holly, and not to throw her under the bus here, where she loves puns and her dad loves puns. And I think Holly is wonderful, and I think she's magnificent, and I think she can be very funny. But anytime she says a pun around me, she looks at me knowing I'm scowling. Like already before she sees me, she knows I'm not going to like it. Because she is the pun master for sure.
I say I hate them, but I laugh every time I hear one.
Yeah, well, I do too. But I think they're stupid. So anyway, a lot of the names like that like catch your eye, I don't really find appealing. But the song titles of the early 2000s, maybe slightly into the 2010s, were there's so many more. And I know, Micah, you were into that scene as well. You could probably name a bunch as well.
I kind of love that.
Yeah.
How I keep track of Fall Out Boy songs is by the number on the album, not the name of the songs.
Right.
The name of the song is stupid, or even so long that it doesn't even show up. It's like you're waiting for it to come all the way back around, right? On the app, it's like reeling back and forth like ticker tape because it's such a long name. And it's like, I like track 3 on that album. All right. Like, fuck the name of the song because it's stupid and doesn't even apply to what it's about. That's usually how I gauge like which songs are my favorite. I just remember them by the number because the names are so nonsensical. It's useless.
One of Fall Out Boy's songs, and I could say this because I got some Irish in me.
Sure.
Tell that Mick he just made my list of things to do today.
That's from Rushmore.
Rushmore?
That's a quote from Rushmore.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, they named a song after it too.
That's hilarious.
No, some of them are. I think there's one of them. I think it's called Sliding into Cooperstown on a Bad Bet.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm just, or sliding head first into Cooperstown on a bad bet. I'm like, this is too long, first of all. This song has nothing to do with baseball. Whereas he's singing about banging some guy's wife.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on around here.
I never knew this was a thing, like the long song title thing. I never knew that was a thing.
It's died off now, but there was a good probably 8 to 12 years where it was all the rage. Like the longer your song title could be, the better. And if it had nothing to do with the song itself, even better.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's the way they felt.
I don't know. I'm kind of sympathetic, though, because at that point, right, you're looking at 50, 60 years worth of rock song titles. And I wonder if that was a reaction to like, this has already been called something.
I think it's partially
this
that.
title's been used.
And I don't remember who it was, but somebody in an interview one time, they were like, how do you name your songs? And they were like, well, usually our song titles are just a lyric we thought of that we couldn't fit into another song. It's like something clever that they liked,
great.
but they couldn't find a way to wedge it in there.
I kind of love that. That's very cool. Well, that's good. All right. So Ben, you played along. You understood. That's good. I'm relieved. Matty, what do you make of this madness?
Yeah, it's tough to think of some examples, but the first one that really came to mind for me of one I went, oh, that's cool. To me, it's about the layered meaning. I love when the label of a character or a product or a brand is like an onion. I can just peel it back. Of course, I think of Fallout. It's like, oh, okay, the nuclear fallout. At the same time, it's like the result of something that has happened that is pretty bad. And it's like, well, that plays really well into what that entire series is about. It's the perfect name. It's those moments I get like that Dagan Moriarty flowing through me. I'm like, yeah, it gets me going, man. That's an awesome name. Like, there's just something to be said about it. I think for me, because I like the themes and having things tied in really well, I think Persona does it especially well. It's a number of examples, but like whether it be their song names or area locations, a lot of pieces of entertainment do it. I think for me, where it really comes to blows is when I'm sitting down to write for like my game, for example. I am notorious for like, I'll just like make up a character name. I'm like, no, we need this character name to have meaning. They have to have purpose, which isn't like a bad thing, but I'm obsessed with like names, the uniqueness of names. Like when I But Laylee, like the way her name is spelled, I was like, it's no one. I think we did research. She's the only one in the United States. So it's like, that's awesome, right? Like that's a unique name, and the meaning behind it. And so when I name my characters, it's like, this has to look right. Like, oh, this fits. This is believable in this world. It's not like, what Square Enix names their games, they're like triangle strategy. It's more like this name has to make sense. But then also, if you think about it, or you do a little research, quick Google or something like that, you get a little answer there. And you're like, oh, interesting. So that's where it ends up for me. Is I really don't think I gave it much thought until I got on the other end of things and I started making stuff, and I couldn't just name a character like John, and John shows up for one scene. It's like, no, like, who is this guy? Like, what can we add to this character to give them a lot of purpose? So that's where my head goes. I know my answer is a little more abbreviated, but it's like, I don't have 1,000,001 examples. I know I feel your passion, Dagan. Like when I was helping Laylee come up with a name for her little home business, it was like I was there. I was in on the floor just thinking of all these different ideas. Like I love the idea jam for a good idea, for a good brand or something like that. When we sat down to do Retro Rebound, that was from an idea jam. Rewind was an obvious one that didn't take too much time to really cook up, but there's a good feeling when you land on that name, and like it's the intangible. You look at it, you're like, I know what's going on there. And then it gets to our point earlier of there's just certain ones you look at, you're like, what? And there's some that are so simple that you've just been grandfathered into them. You don't really think about it, like Best Buy. It's like, oh, it's the best place to make a purchase. Cool. Doesn't really like tell you, oh, this is like a techie store, if you will, but Best
and they're
Buy.
Lying to you.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Yeah. I still shop at Best Buy all the time, though. Shop
great
right.
return policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have
Matty,
great
I had no
steelbooks.
idea you were working on a game. That's really cool, man.
I know, right?
yeah.
I don't talk about it often enough, but I need to get it out there a little bit. We're getting close to a deadline. It's time to start propping it up. Yeah, I ShopRite's another one. It's like, oh, I'm shopping right. So I'm here, I'm doing the right thing. So there's certain ones that are on a level of simplism that you just don't think about it anymore, right?
Yeah, they're simple.
But yeah, otherwise, I'd say Fallout's the first thing that comes to mind. I think there's ones that sound cool. Again, another really cheap answer, but Star Wars. I'm like, look, come on. You hear that, it's like, wow, there's so much that could be happening there. And as we've seen with Disney Plus, there is a lot happening there. So yeah, man, Mega Man is another one. I think that's just cool sounding. So yeah, I'm an easy man. Obviously, I picked a lot of game examples, but yeah, I really think of it on a character level, I think. And like, how do you marry that with like the themes of the thing I'm watching? That goes a really long way with me, especially like since I've started watching more movies. Like I watched Batman Begins for the first time. I don't know. Don't ask me how I got away with watching Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises a bunch of times in my life. And I just never said like, hey, let me check out Batman Begins.
Oh, I love that series.
Yeah, it's amazing. Right. And here I am watching 2/3 of it for like most of my life. And so I've
That's me.
yeah.
I've never seen the first one.
No one ever acknowledges it. Like I'm just like, oh, this must just be a fucking one-off, and then Nolan stepped in. It's like, oh no, that's part of his trilogy. I'm like, why does no one talk about this?
Yeah, no one talks about that one.
It was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
Does.
And one thing that like really these early 2000s superheroes movies did, I don't know if this really fits the naming part, but I think it's why I like the themes of things. Is like the theme of Batman Begins is like overcoming fear, and like the way they play with that with its characters and its villain selection is really smart. It's really intelligent. Like each of these movies has a theme. The Raimi Spider-Man 1 and 2 at least have like a really strong theme backing it. Like 2 being about like, dropping the costume and why he just like can't escape that life and that full circle moment. It's really good stuff. And so I think the presence of a theme, I guess that's what a brand is at the end of the day, but it goes such a long way with me that I like the deeper cuts. Like what's the character name? Because it usually signifies so much about the world when someone puts thought into it, for example, or like a brand name within the world itself. So I guess I don't think too much about our real world brands like I do with like entertainment, but that's what I came up with. It was really interesting to see that there's someone else who likes the cool names, but I guess I'm coming from a little bit of a different angle here.
My wife has a small like startup jewelry business. Like she makes handmade jewelry, and she just calls it, she just named it after herself, and she's doing really well with it. But awesome. She'll ask me to brainstorm with her for her seasonal lines of jewelry. Like she does a new wave 4 times a year. And she's so competitive with me. And she's not as good at it as I am. I'm like, why did you even ask me? She just rejects things so she could think of something better, but she can't. It's like this ongoing battle. And she, she wants to kind of put me in my place and make sure I'm not getting too high on the hog, and I'm not getting too, I'm not riding too high as far as like thinking of myself as like this master marketer and everything like that. But she still asks me. So I'm still like kind of a little confused. Like, do you really want my help, or are you just kind of proving that? Is she out to kind of prove that she's better than me? I don't know. But when you were talking about your girls thing, I was like, wow, that's another. Because you got to think, you named a lot of iconic examples, few syllables, maybe alliteration in there, rolls off the tongue, Best Buy, ShopRite, all those things. They're intentionally named that way. You can't.
Fresh Time.
Yeah, you know what? You're trying to, those are boring things, but like you're trying to appeal to everybody, right? Like the old lady's got to understand it. The little kid's got to understand it. It's got to be universally understandable, that type of thing. But I love a name with impact. Really, funnily enough, I didn't really listen to punk music, although it was so adjacent to skateboarding when I started in the 80s and 90s. But I would hear band names or see the patches on my friends' jackets or their t-shirts and be like, Dead Kennedys. Like that name, think what you want of that name. It has impact. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, it gets you. It's strong. And Matty, for working in animation, being a character designer primarily, like naming characters is a great call up and something I didn't mention. But that's that's super adjacent to what I'm talking about. Where
good, I'm glad it fits. I was worried.
It does, because everything starts with that. Whether you're being ironic or you want to make it fit. What's funny about it? I started a new job 8 weeks ago. I don't know everybody there, even on my floor. It's a big place, and I work near, my office is near like the IT pit where all the IT kids work. And I could call them kids because they're all in their 20s. And they struck up a conversation with me the other day and were like, oh man, your name. And I didn't even know that they knew my name. Although, it was always high and by for the past couple of months. But I didn't even know. And they were like, your name is so crazy. It's so cool. It's so crazy. Like you sound like a bad guy. And you sound like a villain, and I'm thinking they're talking about Moriarty. But they're apparently talking about my first name, but I don't know that because they didn't say it. Going on. And I'm like, yeah. And my last name is Moriarty. And, and they were like, wait, what? Like, we were talking about your first name, that type of, and I was like, wait, what? And then I told them the whole thing about my sister-in-law's last name was Watson. And she took and they were just like, it kind of played into the whole thing with my mom getting pulled over by the officer. The name was Holmes. And she tried to kind of smooth her way out of it by saying, I'm Moriarty. It's Moriarty versus Holmes. And he was just not having it. I don't know if she told that story on our podcast, but I thought that was hilarious because that was BA. That was Betty Ann trying to use that patented BA charm to get out of a ticket. And the officer was she got that one dude right in the precinct that just wasn't having it. Yeah. He didn't even crack a smile. So what kind of heartless demon is that guy? But yeah, man, that was good. I'm glad you guys kind of humored me with that topic, but I appreciate it. And listen, if you're naming a podcast out there, I'm your guy. I'll do it for free because I'm that crazy. I'm a little nuts. Now listen, you guys, if I'm comfortable, if you guys are comfortable, we could put a pin in that, boys and girls. I'm sure everybody has places to go, things to do. By the way, is that pin thing, is that a grenade reference? What the hell does that mean? Put a pin
I thought
in
of
it?
A balloon. You just pop it.
I've never thought about it.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's a lot that we're learning here. We just say things and we don't think about it.
Yeah.
Right, because it's like it could be a sewing reference, like put a pin in it because when you're sewing, you put pins periodically because it holds it in place before you sew it. It's like I actually have never thought about, what the hell are they talking about? Putting a pin in what? Fabric, a balloon, voodoo doll? It could be anything.
Oh, yeah. You guys are so smart, man. I'm learning. I feel like both of those are really good answers. Well, in that tradition, let's check in with the gang one more time in turn for parting shots and goodbyes. Micah, we're embarking on Memorial Day weekend as we record this. You guys will hear this after, I think. But talk to me about whatever you want going out, including the holiday plans?
Yeah, well, pool party at Uncle Mike's, hopefully. It's starting to thunderstorm right now, and it's supposed to storm the majority of the weekend and Monday possibly as well. So we'll find out if we get to spend any time outdoors on Monday. I'm hoping to get a hot dog regardless, but yeah, it's the only plan I got. I did remember one thing, and this just proves how bad I am at naming things. I had a business project in college, and you just make up your own small business. And I was like, oh, mine's going to be a nacho place like at the mall. And I was going to call it Nacho Zaics because it was like mosaics, but they're nachos. And everyone made the exact face that you all just did of like, that's fucking dumb. And I was like, no, because the nachos are kind of like mosaics, And they're like, yeah, it sucks. But it was just a college project for an elective class. And this is why I don't work in marketing. This is why I don't name things. So thank you for having me today. This was a lot of fun.
I will hit you up with an email with about 100 alternate names for this business. But it's a good shot. It's a good jumping off point. There's no bad answers, Micah. That's what all the marketing people would tell me when I first sat in with them because I was so intimidated. And they were I thought I was good at it. They were super good at it. It was like, holy shit. Just like the brainstorming session where it was like, I remember the person who led it eventually went to DreamWorks. She left, but her whole thing was like, there's no bad answer. There's no silly answer. There's no stupid answer. Just shout it out. You don't have to raise your hand. But she was also extremely intimidating and actually mean. So like you wouldn't do that with her because you were afraid that she was going to browbeat you. Yeah, she was an interesting character. I didn't really like her that much, but I learned a lot from those people. And Micah, I like it. We're going to work on that. It's a good jumping up point. Ben, Memorial Day festivities. Will you be leading a parade through town with your top hat and monocle? That was a mayor reference. Ben, before I hand it over to you, I have one mayor question for you. I was thinking about this before when I was making my notes before the show. Like the president or a one-time president, do you always get to refer to yourself as mayor?
If I ever spoke to anyone in public, I could, I guess.
Oh, you could.
But I don't. Yeah, so in Pennsylvania, I think you get to keep the title of mayor or honorable as long as you don't lose an election. So if I had run again and lost, I would not be allowed to use that title.
That's
technically the president isn't supposed to either if they lose. But since I did not run again, then I could use it, I guess. Yeah.
Interesting. How long has it been since you gave that seat to somebody else?
A little over 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. Because you were mayor. You were still mayor when we did the Butler live show. Yeah. Right.
As far as I don't know why I just thought of this. Whenever I had the brewery, which was also when I was the mayor, we had to name our beers all the time. I was always coming up with names for that. But
there you go.
Now.
Well, tell me about it.
Well, I'll just give you one because I don't
give me one.
Have much longer. We had a beer that was it was inspired by Chinese food, and it had a lactose and sugar and honey in it, milk and honey. We call it the Promised Land Ale because the land of milk and honey in the Bible, the whole thing. That's one.
I like it.
Yeah, I didn't come up with that name. I'm not clever enough, but anyway. So for this weekend, my wife got chickens, and she picked up a couple the other day and a couple today, and I think my niece and nephew are coming over tonight to check out the chickens. I haven't even seen them all, I guess, because she got some of them while I was doing this. I'm still not convinced of I'm sure the eggs are going to be great, and it's going to be great. It's going to be good, but I'm still not convinced of the payoff. We spent a few $100s at minimum on this cage for them.
Oh yeah.
You got to buy feed. You got to buy like a thing for them to drink water out of, and you get 6 eggs a day. And eggs aren't as expensive as they used to be, but I'm sure they're going to taste good.
No, chickens are awesome. I love chickens. I can't. You got to send me pictures. Okay. I love chickens so much.
I'll send you some pictures.
They're such fantastic animals, and they make cute little sounds, and they hop around. Oh my god, I love chickens.
Also, my dog, we feed him a combination of kibble and raw meat, and he eats a lot of chickens and like snacks on chicken feet and stuff. And he has become the 2 chickens we already had before today. he's become like their guard dog. Like he loves them. He
Oh,
thinks
no
they're his
way.
pets.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is very ironic because he doesn't realize that he normally just eats them whole. Without
Do you
thinking
know what
about
that
it.
is?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what we're doing this weekend, but probably something. But for tonight, it's the chickens hanging out.
That sounds like enough. You got a handful, like Farmer Ben over here. I'm going to check back in with you with the chickens.
Farmer Ben.
My rule when Emily said she wanted chickens, I said, you can have chickens. I'll buy the stuff. I'll help you put the cage together. I'm not taking care of them. I don't want to take care of them. I'll eat them.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot.
You know, but I don't want to take.
But I'll eat them. Yeah, let me think. My son's one of his best friends has chickens, and their parents do swear by it. And I have had the eggs. We talked about this on another show, Micah. The fresh eggs, like the farm fresh eggs, they just hit different. They're really, really good. They look different. There's that yolk is such a vibrant yellow, but that you could also taste the freshness. Like there's something in there that's just like, yeah, right. It's not sitting in the supermarket or the warehouse for,
right.
That's cool, man.
Never tried that. I gotta
Matty,
get around to it.
what do you think? Last but not least, Wayne, however you want to go out. It's been a while since I've seen you. We got beach plans, barbecue. We got a cookout. What's going on this weekend? However else you want to close this out.
Never beach plans. I'll just say that up front. Never. I hate the beach. If my complexion is anything to go by, I like it. It's when someone says you want to go to the beach, I'm like, no, like you hate the beach. I'm like, dude, do you sign up to suffer? Like, yeah, do you just one day wake up and say like, yeah, I just want to fuck my day up for like 4 hours and just sit in the sun and just like walk away hurting from the like, no, you know, and then I get to park it underneath an umbrella. It's not worth it. Respect to those who do like the beach and can deal with it though. I wish I were you. This weekend, I'm trying to lay low. I'm traveling in a couple of weeks to LA, so I'm gonna have a lot of work to do. So these last few weeks have just been something like multiple days throughout the week, and especially the weekends have been loaded up. I mean, even this weekend, I'm not completely free. We do have one thing to do. It's my fiance's brother's kid's birthday, so gonna go check that out. But otherwise, I'm trying to just do a little R&R because I've definitely been, we're starting to prepare to go away, so we're doing a little stuff in work in bulk. So I'm just trying to lay low this weekend. I just saw my parents today, so I don't think I'm going to do anything for Memorial Day with them or anything like that. So I think overall, just going to hang out at the house, exercise a little bit, and kick my feet up. I mean, I really haven't done that in the last this whole month. So I'm feeling like that's the play this weekend. We'll just hang out. And for me, when it comes to like days off, like Memorial Day, it's like I still have to work on Memorial Day, like any holiday. I don't get to hear from the boss man or whatever, like, hey, take the day off. You get paid anyway. It's like I don't. So it's gonna be a normal 2-day weekend for me, but that's okay. Otherwise, though, great time here. Great set of topics. We got deep on so many things that I didn't anticipate initially. That was a lot of fun. And so, yeah, as always, fun being here.
It was good having you, man. It's great seeing everybody. This might be the first time, don't quote me, that we've had this permutation of people. I don't think we've had this exact setup yet.
I don't think I've been on other shows. I've been on Summon Sign and Duke and stuff, but I don't think I've been on Constellation with Matty before.
Yeah. So it's cool.
We'll
That's
ask James.
Cool.
I've seen Micah on like every podcast for the last month. So
I know. We went from never doing a show together. Like we hadn't done a show together, I think, since the Tales of Arise spoiler cast.
Yeah,
and then it's just worked out these past few weeks that I've been on a few times with Matty. It's very great.
That's
finally
cool.
getting to see you a bit more.
Yeah.
It's one of those things of like, yeah, we talk over text much more than we see each other
100%.
this way.
Yeah.
LSM family in the house. Thank you guys. You did awesome. Everybody did a great job. It's good seeing you. It's good talking with you. That's all she wrote. Constellation faithful, thank you for joining us today. I hope you had fun. Patreon.com/laststandmedia for ad-free early access. Don't be a cheapy peepee. Don't be a cheapy peepee. Don't be a cheapy peepee. Just, we're working hard over here. Pay us something. Give us a little loot. Give us love, but give us loot. Laststandmedia.store for a t-shirt, or you can buy. Now, last time, I don't know if you guys tuned in last week. I did a bad thing. Maybe. I told people to buy a bunch of LSM stickers and then plaster their neighbor's car with them. I'm thinking that's a bad idea. Here's a revised thought on this. buy a bunch of LSM stickers, save them for yourself. Take one, put it on your neighbor's car, and see if they notice. Put it on in an inconspicuous place. Maybe that little back window that nobody could fit through, like that's not quite the back window, you know, like that type. Put it there. Just see if they notice. And then also in the meantime, they're rocking LSM. They don't even know it. Just do it. Just do it. Listen, it was good having you guys. Parting is such sweet sorrow. For Micah, Matty, and Ben, I'm still the Dagster Moriarty saying thank you once again for joining us. And we'll see you again the next time. Bye now.
Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.